Chapter 2183. A desperate dog would jump over a wall. A desperate man would risk his life. Sui Wachin was badly injured and her speed was slowed down. She knew she could not run away and she had to fight. She knew that as long as she could hold on for a while, reinforcements from the city of Yama would arrive. By then, Xia Tianqing would be doomed. Having made up her mind, Sui Wachin did not hesitate anymore. She began to fight with Xia Tianqing. She dashed around and pulled the bow in her hand again and again. Every time she pulled the bow, a beast would whooshing over. The scorching flames expanded and covered up the sky. The air was scorching hot. It was a pity that Xia Tianqing's battle prowess was too abnormal. Every time he punched out, his fist would cause the air to tremble and ripple like water. A shield formed from the ripples in the air and fended off Sui Yuechin's attacks. Little beauty, give up. Your attacks can't hurt me at all. Obediently submit to this old man, and this old man will make you happy. Xia Tianqing laughed heartily. His face was filled with a carefree expression. Being able to abuse a little beauty made him very happy. He wanted to see Sui Wachin give up all hope and submit to him. Go to hell, Sui Wachin yelled. She kept on attacking with the divine weapon. She dashed around to avoid Xia Tianqing's approach. Xia Tianqing did not intend to get closer either. The stronger Sui Yuechin's attacks were, the more serious her injuries would be. After a while, it would be easy to take her down. I have to go. I have to go. Even though Lu Li was more than 1,000 miles away from the center of the battlefield, he could sense what was going on over there. He did not want to get involved. He just wanted to sneak away. That was what he did. Before the battle spread to this side, he sneaked away. He would be safe when he was a few thousand miles away. He did not fly out from the wicked bead. Instead, he flew the wicked bead in a low-key manner. If he were to fly out, he would be easily sensed by the fourth tribulation warrior. The wicked bead was not flying fast. Lu Li would be afraid that the fourth tribulation warrior would be able to sense him. But Lu Li was overthinking. The fourth tribulation warrior was too sensitive. Once Lu Li moved, Xia Tianqing and Sui Wachin could sense him. Xia Tianqing, in particular, had to be on guard against reinforcements from the city of Yama. Therefore, he'd been on guard. Naturally, the wicked bead's movement in space could not escape his eyes. He checked with psychic power and saw through the wicked bead. He found Lu Li inside. He snorted coldly and said, "Little thief, still want to escape?" Sui Wachin was born in a prestigious family, and her soul was strong. She checked with psychic power and found Lu Li. She recognized Lu Li. She was the one who saved him when he was being hunted. She was being hunted down, but Lu Li just ran away, which made Sui Wachin furious. She was the goddess of the Hell Palace. Lu Li and the others were her subordinates. She was their master. When their master was in trouble, their subordinates ran away on their own. How could Sui Wachin not be angry? Sui Wachin thought about it and flew to Lu Li. Now that she was in trouble, she didn't want to let Lu Li have it easy. She wanted to drag Lu Li into this. Even if she had to die, she wanted Lu Li to die with her. *T, that be *TCH is setting me up. Lu Li was enraged. He dashed out from the wicked bead. Dragon wings appeared on his back, and he was about to run away. He did not want to be a part of their fight. The life or death of the goddess of the Hell Palace was none of his business. It was not easy for Lu Li to run away. Xia Tianqing had been hunting him for a long time, but he managed to escape. How could Xia Tianqing let Lu Li go when he had such a good chance? Sui Wachin was at the end of her rope. Xia Tianqing was not in a hurry to kill her. He wanted to kill Lu Li first. "You want to run away?" Xia Tianqing shouted. He reached out with his hand. A huge hand appeared above Lu Li's head. The hand exerted a strong suction force. Lu Li felt he was slowed down, and he was still being pulled toward the hand. Lu Li shouted. The cauldron of 1,000 transformations appeared in his hand. It turned into a saber, and he hacked at the hand in the sky. A ray of sword light came out. The ray of sword light made several turns in the air and landed on the hand. The hand exploded. The strong force enveloping Lu Li was gone. Lu Li was relieved. If the hand could not be destroyed, he would be in trouble later. Xia Tianqing and Sui Wachin were surprised. Xia Tianqing didn't expect that Lu Li could break his hand. Sui Weqin didn't expect Lu Li to be so powerful. He looked like a warrior of the Second Tribulation realm, but he was a hidden master. Sui Weqin had an idea. She sent a message to Lu Li. Hey, help me stall this man. Our backup is coming. If you help me, I will be greatly rewarded after I get out of danger. Ha. Lu Li smiled. This lady didn't even know how to beg for help. When she did, she acted in a condescending manner. Did she really think that the entire world revolved around her? Lu Li didn't even pay attention to her. He turned around and flew to the distance. He wanted to leave, but Xia Tianqing didn't want him to. Previously, Xia Tianqing hadn't recovered yet, and he had let Lu Li escape for so long. Xia Tianqing's pride was hurt. This time, he must make Lu Li pay. Swish, behind Xia Tianqing, several streaks of purple glow suddenly appeared. The glow flew up to the sky, and then many purple clouds came down from the sky. The clouds floated down like lotus lanterns and enveloped Lu Li. What kind of skill is this? Lu Li was taken aback. Why didn't Xia Tianqing use these skills when he was chasing after him? If Xia Tianqing had done so at the beginning, he wouldn't have been able to get away. These clouds gave him a very dangerous feeling, and he couldn't touch them. That being said, the clouds were moving fast. It was hard to pierce through them. It was not that Xia Tianqing didn't want to use this skill, but that he didn't have the ability. He didn't recover much of his abilities. Then, he ran into Luo Sha and obtained a top-level pellet. That was how he recovered some of his abilities. Now, he had enough divine energy to release some powerful skills. In the past, there was no divine energy in their pellets. Later, they cultivated some divine energy, but it was not enough to release powerful skills. This time, Lu Li got a top-level pellet from Luo Sha. His divine energy had recovered, which was why he could release this skill. Thunderclouds formation. This was one of Xia Tianqing's famous skills. Xia Tianqing was a famous warrior at the Rakshasa Sea. Once the thunderclouds formation was activated, he believed that Lu Li would not be able to escape. Now that Lu Li was trapped, Xia Tianqing could deal with Sui Weqin with ease. Seeing that Lu Li was trapped, Sui Weqin wasn't disappointed at all. Instead, she was secretly delighted. She smiled. She sent a message to Lu Li, but received no reply. Why did Lu Li run away? Sui Weqin felt she was being belittled. Strangely, she was happy that Lu Li was trapped. Even if she had to die, she would drag Lu Li down with her. *T, you crazy woman. Chapter 2184. Lu Li was trapped. He was surrounded by clouds. He tried to touch the clouds and realized that they were horrifying. There was a kind of overbearing energy contained in the clouds, which was poisonous as well. Even though Lu Li knew that warriors at the Third Realm had many tricks up their sleeves, this strange skill still shocked him. He was not afraid of the overbearing energy, but the poison was. His body was strong, but his god body wasn't complete yet. He couldn't resist all kinds of poisons. Once the poison entered his body, even an immortal wouldn't be able to save him. This old monster's methods were very abnormal. The fierce fighting was still going on outside. Lu Li was not in a hurry. Sui Weqin was fighting with all her might. She might not be able to kill him in a short time. Therefore, Lu Li still had time. As long as he could escape, he still had a chance to survive. Nine Strange Mountain. Lu Li thought about taking out the Nine Wonders Mountain, which was Emperor Mu's treasure. If he could get into the Nine Wonders Mountain, he should be able to get out of the poisonous fog. However, the two people outside were knowledgeable people. Juchi Mountain would definitely recognize him. At that time, the news of who survived would spread, and the descendants of Emperor Mu would probably hunt him down. Flying through the void. Lu Li had never tried to fly in a void when he was at the third heaven. If he could fly and leave directly, then everything would be fine. He thought about drawing a talisman in the void, and something very depressing happened. There was a ripple in the air, but the golden door did not appear. The flying through the void had failed. The space in the third heaven is too stable. That was the only explanation Lu Li could come up with. The third heaven was vast and had existed for millions of years. The space here was the most stable. Of course, the fourth or fifth heaven might be more stable. That's not right either. Even the heavens above the third layer of heaven had collapsed. That meant that the space above was not very stable. Why did the world above collapse? This had always been a mystery, and it was estimated that only emperor-ranked individuals would know the truth. Flying the void would not work. Luli had to rely on the wicked bead. He wanted to see if the wicked bead could help him fly out. After all, the wicked bead was a piece of treasure. He dashed into the wicked bead and flew it toward the cloud. If he could hold on for a moment, he would fly the wicked bead out at once. Xia Tianqing, had been observing with psychic power. Seeing Luli enter the wicked bead, Xia Tianqing sneered. If his thundercloud array was so easy to break, then it wouldn't be his famous technique. I'm fine. Luli flew the wicked bead into the cloud. He was delighted to find that the toxic fog in the cloud could not enter the wicked bead. He flew the wicked bead forward in a blur. However, what happened next shocked him. The wicked bead had been flying for the time for 10 breaths, but there were still clouds ahead. The wicked bead was fast. In the time for 10 breaths, the wicked bead could cover thousands of miles. This cloud only covered an area of 10,000 feet. So how could it not fly out in 10 breaths of time? There's a spirit formation. Luli used psychic power to check and saw the problem at once. The clouds were moving, forming a strong spatial formation. The wicked bead seemed to be flying in a straight line, but it was actually going around in circles. Amazing! Luli sighed in his heart. This was a type of innate skill and not a divine inscriptions dojo. The boundless universe was truly full of wonders. Blood Fairy, are you afraid of poisons? Luli told Blood Fairy about the situation. Blood Fairy answered with excitement. It's okay. I can turn into an intangible form. Regular poisons will not work on me. I will go out and have a look. Blood Fairy had a natural fondness for inhibition formations and inhibition formations. She herself was gifted in this regard. She was fond of powerful inhibition formations and divine inscriptions. Blood Fairy reached out her tentacle. However, after a while, she retracted her tentacle and said, "There is a very strong energy in the cloud. It can hurt me." Then don't go and check," Luli said, disappointed. But Blood Fairy replied, "No, I can stand it. I just need to rest for a while. This formation is so strong." "This is not a formation, but a skill," Luli explained. Blood Fairy replied, "No, this is a formation and it is very ingenious. The cloud is formed by Xian Qi in heaven and earth. The poison is not poison. It is also a strong and strange energy. This is a very mysterious formation that is unimaginably powerful." Blood Fairy reached out her tentacle and said, "Master, fly according to the route I told you. Slow down, or I will not be able to stand it." Okay. Luli used psychic power to fly the wicked bead slowly. He could tell that the tentacle of the blood vine was melting. It was slow, but Luli could tell that the blood vine was being hurt bit by bit. Would the blood vine be in pain? But at this rate, the blood vine would be weakened. Fortunately, Luli had some crystals for Blood Fairy to consume. The blood vine could recover after some time. Time moved on. Luli followed Blood Fairy's instructions and wandered around in the wicked bead. The battle outside was getting more intense. Su Yueqin's wounds were getting worse. She was no match for Xia Tianqing. After all, Xia Tianqing was a notorious villain at the Devil's Sea. When he was fully recovered, he could kill Su Yueqin in one move. But he had recovered less than 60% of his abilities, which was why Su Yueqin could last so long. Another thing was that Xia Tianqing did not want to kill Su Yueqin. He wanted to capture her alive. Boom! After enough time passed for 3 incense sticks to burn, Su Yueqin's body smashed down onto the ground. Several of her bones were broken. She struggled for a moment but couldn't get up. It seemed that her injuries were too severe to endure. Ha ha ha! Xia Tianqing laughed out loud. He flew down like an eagle and reached for Su Yueqin. He wanted to seal her up so that he could take her away. Buzzing. Right at that moment, Su Yueqin's ring glowed. Then, a surge of divine energy spread out. In the wicked bead, Luli shivered. He did not even have to check. He yelled in surprise, "Holy weapon!" He was so familiar with this kind of energy. He had a piece of holy weapon in his hand. The energy was so unique that he could not simulate it. He used psychic power and happened to see Xia Tianqing being smashed away. Half of his shoulder and one of his arms were crushed. Blood gushed out from his mouth, and his chest was a mess. Broken sword is a piece of holy weapon. Lu Li saw a red broken sword. He was sure that the broken sword was a piece of holy grade, like his relic iron. The energy was so similar. Heaven's sword. Xia Tianqing was knocked several thousand meters away, but he returned very quickly. He stared at the broken sword and said angrily, Su Tianlai actually gave the saint weapon fragment to you. Looks like you do have a lot of weight in his heart. I was careless. Losing an arm was not a big deal. But the energy from the holy weapon had hurt his internal organs and soul. He had not recovered yet. Now it was one disaster after another. Ha ha ha, this is a godsend. But soon he was overjoyed. Su Yueqin's injuries were so deep that she could not use the power of the holy weapon fragment. Otherwise, he would have died. Chapter 2185. The Heaven Cosmos Sword was a famous holy weapon. Once in the hands of an emperor, the Heaven Cosmos Sword drank the blood of many powerful warriors. Later, the emperor died of old age and the family declined. 1,000 years later, the family was wiped out. When the family was wiped out, the family patriarch used a secret skill to break the Heaven Cosmos Sword into two pieces. The two pieces flew away from their enemies. One of them was nowhere to be found, and the other one was found. It changed hands many times and was now in the hands of the Palace of Hell. Even though there was only one piece, the broken sword was not smashed. It was disassembled using a secret skill. Therefore, the broken sword was more powerful than the average pieces of holy weapon. The Heaven Cosmos Sword was a piece of treasure, a weapon that could protect a family. How could the master of the Palace of Hell give Su Yueqin protection? From this, one could tell that Su Yueqin was favored by the master. It also proved that Su Yueqin really had the body of stars and moon. Otherwise, why would the master give her such a piece of treasure? Usually, it would be impossible to get such a treasure. However, this was a godsend. He could have the body of stars and the holy weapon. Maybe he could soar and replace the Palace of Hell. Xia Tianqing trembled at the thought of this, but he told himself not to be hasty. Su Yueqin was a dying grasshopper. There was no need to be hasty. He just had to take her down in the time for 3 incense sticks to burn. He was badly injured, and Su Yueqin had the holy weapon. One wrong move, and he would be doomed. If Su Yueqin were not so badly injured, he would have died. Or, if he was a bit slower, he would be doomed as well. He kept attacking from afar. Su Yueqin was protected by the Heaven Cosmos Sword. The glow enveloped Su Yueqin and fended off Xia Tianqing's attacks. The outcome is about to be decided. Can Blood Fairy make it? Lu Li was getting anxious. It was clear that Su Yueqin could not hold on much longer. She was like an arrow at the end of its flight. The holy weapon fragment could not stand Xia Tianqing's attacks. Every time Lu Li attacked, Su Yueqin's injuries would worsen. Soon, she would pass out or die. Soon, Blood Fairy's voice was weak. Clearly, she was badly injured. Master, take another turn with the wicked bead. I should be able to find the gate of life. Okay. Lu Li was overjoyed. The battle outside could go on for a while. As long as he could get out, he could still survive. He flew the wicked bead away and circled around while Blood Fairy was analyzing the situation. All right, Master. Blood Fairy pondered for a moment, then said, Master, follow the route I gave you. Fly 10 laps, and you'll be out of the formation. In addition, Master, give me some crystals. I need to sleep for a period of time. All right. Lu Li took out some crystals from his interspatial ring and threw them on the ground. Following Blood Fairy's instructions, he flew the wicked bead quickly. Boom! A series of shocking explosions came from outside. The mountains near Su Yueqin were all destroyed. Su Yueqin could not get up and could only passively endure the attacks. She was barely able to block Xia Tianqing's attacks with the help of the Saint Weapon Shard, but she would be injured with every attack, and the aftershocks of the attacks would injure her. Xia Tianqing's divine telekinesis detected that Su Yueqin's aura was getting weaker and weaker. His eyes became more and more excited. If this continued, Su Yueqin would faint after a few more attacks. At that time, he would be able to obtain both her and the Saint weapon. Boom, boom, boom. He was even more desperate. He released 3 attacks in a row. Su Yueqin felt she was about to faint as well. A glint of determination rose in her eyes. She mobilized the divine energy in her body. The heaven cosmos sword glowed. The sky was filled with colorful light as a ray of sword light flew out. Su Yueqin passed out after this attack. The last thought she had before she passed out was that if this attack could not kill Xia Tianqing, then she would be doomed. What? Xia Tianqing did not expect that Su Yueqin still had the strength to release such a horrifying attack. He dodged in a panic, but it was too late. The colorful light was coming at him. The void trembled, and the energy of destruction spread out. He sensed fatal danger in his soul. Shield of the void. Madness rose in his eyes. There was no way back now. He had to fight back. He punched with both fists. Ripples appeared in the void. The ripples in space formed into a shield. This was another skill of his. He could use the force of the void to defend against powerful attacks. Any powerful attack would have to borrow the force of heaven and earth. There was a limit to what a warrior could do by relying on his own strength. Only by borrowing the force of heaven and earth could he form a strong attack and defense. Many fundamental principles, skills, and divine skills relied on the force of heaven and earth. Only in this way could the attacks be powerful and ferocious. Boom, boom, boom. The shield of the void was strong. But how powerful was a holy weapon? This was Su Yueqin's last desperate move. It was powerful. His shield of the void was crushed. Then he was smashed away like a sack. He was covered in blood. He landed on a mountain in the distance. Boom! The gigantic mountain in the distance was directly smashed into pieces by the sword. Dust billowed into the air, covering the sky. The entire ground was trembling, and a sharp, ferocious aura spread out in all directions. Whoosh! At the same time, from the cloud, the wicked bead dashed out. Lu Li had just escaped from the formation of thunderclouds. He wanted to run away at once. However, he was taken aback by this move. He used psychic power to check and was shocked again. Su Yueqin had fainted. That last move almost killed Xia Tianqing. Xia Tianqing was not dead yet. He was smashed into the mountain. Half of his body was gone. It was a tragic sight. Ow! Lu Li realized that there was a golden opportunity in front of him. He could kill Xia Tianqing, who was dying, and then take the Heaven Universe Sword. He could even take all the treasures on Su Yueqin. Yes, Lu Li only hesitated for the time, for one breath, before he flew over. A piece of black iron appeared in his hand. He wanted to finish Xia Tianqing in one move. You bastard. You think you could take advantage of the situation? Xia Tianqing was in a miserable state. Blood gushed out from his mouth. He was surprised that Lu Li could escape. That being said, Xia Tianqing sneered when Lu Li attacked him. Although he was on the verge of death, he wasn't someone that Lu Li could kill. Buzzing, Xia Tianqing's hand glowed as he struck at the void. He was going to use the void shield again to block Lu Li's attack, and then kill Lu Li. Buzzing. The piece of iron in Lu Li's hand glowed. A surge of divine energy spread out. Xia Tianqing's facial muscles twitched. He trembled and shouted, "Another piece of holy weapon? Are there so many saint weapon fragments these days that they can be found all over the ground? How come Lu Li, a warrior of the second tribulation and a warrior of the captive camp, had a piece of holy weapon?" Boom! Xia Tianqing could not figure it out, and he had no time to think. Lu Li smashed at the void shield with a piece of iron, and then smashed Xia Tianqing's head into a pulp. Chapter 2186. Lu Li didn't gain much from killing Xia Mo had no more treasures. Though he had many skills, he couldn't learn them. Lu Li took off Xia Mo's interspatial ring and checked. There was nothing in it. That being said, Lu Li felt a sense of achievement to have killed a warrior of the fourth tribulation. He flew over, and his eyes were burning with passion. He used psychic power to check on the broken sword in Su Yuaqin's hand. A holy weapon. Even though it was broken, it was still powerful and valuable. Luli didn't feel guilty for taking other people's treasures. This was the way of the world. If he revealed his treasures, there would be a group of people coming to take them. For example, if the fact that he had the 9 strange mountain and the holy weapon shard was known, the Hell Palace would be the first to deal with him. Then, the entire Devil's Sea would come after him. Luli had nothing to do with Su Yuaqin. Naturally, he wouldn't have tender feelings for her just because she was a girl. It was already a matter of principle that he didn't kill Su Yuaqin or violate her. There was nothing wrong with taking treasures. Luli did the same. He flew over and arrived at the ruins. The mountain was smashed. Gravel was everywhere. It was a scene of desolation. Su Yuaqin was covered in mud. She was a beauty, but now she was in a sorry state. She was covered in blood. Mud and blood were mixed together. She looked like a beggar. Although she was in a sorry state, Su Yuaqin's curvaceous figure and her dirty but distinctive face were still very attractive. Luli stood next to her. He didn't feel anything. If a woman didn't have a good inner self, no matter how pretty she looked, she would still be a skeleton to him. Whoosh! He grabbed Su Yuaqin's hand with one hand. The black broken sword in her hand was still emitting a faint black glare. That was the unique glare of relic weapons. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Right at that moment, there came some noises from the distance. For black dots were approaching. *T. Luli took a look and was taken aback. There were 4 battleships. There must be powerful warriors if there were so many battleships. Those battleships clearly belonged to the Hell Palace. They were reinforcements from the Yama City. What should I do? At that moment, Luli had several ideas. He had 2 choices. The first one was to grab the universe sword and run. Nobody could say for sure if he could make it out alive. After all, the Tianyu sword was definitely very important to the Underworld Palace. Even if he escaped to the sea, he would still be pursued by countless experts. How many experts were in the 4 warships? He reckoned that he wouldn't be able to escape for long before he was killed by a powerful 4th Tribulation martial artist. The other option was to stay and not move. He could say that killing Xia Tiancheng was equivalent to saving Su Yuaqin. He was a prisoner of war camp, so there was no problem with this identity. His previous crime of escaping should be able to offset his previous crime. However, Su Yuaqin didn't seem to be very friendly towards him. If Su Yuaqin woke up and wanted to settle the score, he wouldn't have a good ending either. Actually, there was another way, and that was to kidnap Su Yuaqin and escape. The people of the Underworld Palace would be afraid to take action, and of course, it would also attract even more experts to chase after him. In a split second, Luli thought quickly. In the end, he chose to stay. It was better to be conservative. He wasn't sure that he could run away. There were too many powerful warriors of the Underworld Palace. Luo Sha and the others were powerful, and yet they were defeated and captured. Luli was nothing compared to them. Luli walked forward, took out the saber, transformed from the cauldron of 1,000 transformations, and looked at the approaching warships with alertness. He acted as if he was loyal to his master and would die for her. It seemed that he was Su Yuaqin's bodyguard. Buzzing, not long afterward, the warships were closer. More than a dozen strong psychic powers scanned over. Luli's expressions changed, but he secretly felt lucky. If he had dared to take the universe sword and run away, he would have died. From more than a dozen psychic powers, he could tell that at least 6 of them were more powerful than Luo Sha. The rest were about the same. In other words, there were more than a dozen warriors of the 4th Tribulation. Luli could be as fast as a warrior of the 4th Tribulation. But if he were to be hunted down by them, he would die a miserable death. Whoosh! Before the warships got closer, more than a dozen people dashed over like eagles. Luli's saber glowed as he shouted, "Who are you? Step back, or I will kill you." The more than a dozen powerful warriors were stunned. How dare a warrior of the 2nd Tribulation shout at them? Was he out his mind? The more than a dozen powerful warriors didn't pay attention to Luli. They were all relieved to see that Su Yuaqin was still alive. Soon, someone found Xia Tiancheng's body. The warriors were surprised. They were all experienced warriors. One look, and they could tell that Xia Tiancheng was a warrior of the fourth tribulation. He must be one of the powerful warriors that escaped from the captive camp. Moo! An old warrior landed in front of Lu Li. Seeing that Lu Li was looking at them with alertness, the old warrior snorted. Why was this warrior of the second tribulation so ignorant? Did he not know them? No. Lu Li stood there stubbornly. Killing intent spread out from him. He said with bloodshot eyes, "If you want to kill my lady, you will have to step over my dead body first." Idiot! The group of powerful warriors rolled their eyes and looked at Lu Li as if he were an idiot. They were patriarchs and masters of the Hell Palace. They were here to save Su Yuqin. How could Lu Li treat them as enemies? How dare you? Teams of warriors flew out from the battleship. A team leader shouted from the distance, "They are patriarchs of the Hell Palace. How dare you offend them? Where do you belong? Why are you here? How come you are injured so badly?" Whoosh! An old lady came to Su Yuqin, picked her up, and fed her some pellets. Lu Li looked at them suspiciously. He asked in disbelief, "Are you really not enemies? You are patriarchs of the Hell Palace?" A powerful old man snorted. A token appeared in his hand. Lu Li did not understand it, but he knew that the show was over. He dropped to one knee at once and said, "Greetings, patriarch lords. I, fourth young master Lu, have offended you. Please punish me." Ignorance is not a crime. The most powerful red-haired old man waved his hand and said, "Get up. You are fourth of Lu? Tell me what happened." "Yes." Lu Li stood up and began to explain with respect, starting with the captives' riot. Of course, he said that Momo escaped first before their team leader let them go. He didn't go into details. He just said that when he got here, he saw Su Yuqin and Xia Tiancheng fighting, and they were both injured. In the end, he killed the dying Xia Tiancheng and stayed here to protect the goddess while waiting for reinforcements. The red-haired old man was surprised. He was doubtful, and so were the other patriarchs. Xia Tiancheng might be dying, but he was a dragon. How could a stray dog like Lu Li kill him? Lu Li could tell that people were doubting him. He flew up to a mountain and smashed it with his fist. The entire mountain was smashed into pieces. Supreme immortal body, no wonder. The patriarchs nodded. This could explain it. When Lu Li came back, the red-haired old man said, "Fourth of Lu, you have done a meritorious service in saving the goddess. You will be rewarded when we go back. Are people of the Internal Affairs Department of the Yama City useless? How can such a loyal and brave warrior be sent to a captive camp as a lowly warrior?" Loyal and brave warrior? Chapter 2187. Lu Li was good at acting. The patriarchs all believed that he was a loyal and brave warrior. But when Su Yuqin woke up, the situation would be reversed. Su Yuqin knew very well that Lu Li had left her in the lurch many times and ran away by himself. That being said, Su Yuqin wouldn't wake up for at least half a month. She would be taken back to the Hell City. How could she remember a nobody like Lu Li? In a couple of months, she would forget about it. That was what Lu Li was betting on. What was more, he did save Su Yuqin. If he hadn't killed Xia Tiancheng, Su Yuqin would have been kidnapped. Anyhow, she had to accept the favor. If she didn't, then there was nothing Lu Li could do. "Old Lu, you guys continue the chase." The red-haired old man waved his hand and said, "I will escort her back in person. Split up and go after them. This time, don't let anyone get away." Yes, they took their orders. The red-haired old man and the old lady flew back to a battleship with Su Yuqin. Then the battleship turned around and flew away. "Fourth brother Lu, right? Come with us." A team leader patted Lu Li's shoulder and carried him back to the battleship. A warrior flew over to put away Xia Tiancheng's body. Soon the battleships split up. One of them flew toward the Yama City, and the other three split up to chase after Lu Li. Lu Li was taken to a cabin by the team leader of one of the battleships, a separate cabin. Lu Li had done a meritorious deed in saving the immortal princess. Fourth Patriarch of the Hell City praised him as a loyal and brave warrior. What was more, Lu Li had cultivated a supreme body. That punch was powerful. Naturally, the team leader would not underestimate Lu Li. As far as the team leader could tell, Lu Li had a promising future. When the immortal princess woke up, she would return the favor and give Lu Li a high position. Who dared to offend the immortal princess's savior or bully him? Lu Li's wounds were not fully recovered yet. He couldn't run away now, so he might as well settle down and recover first. The battleship was not an average one. It was large, and there were many people on board. There must be more than 1,000 warriors on board. Each battleship had a patriarch in command and several hall masters. There were so many powerful warriors that it was a safe place. Lu Li was very clear about the situation of the prisoners of war. Luo Sha and the others should have gone out to sea. In that case, the remaining prisoners of war would not be enough. As long as they encountered them, they would be easily suppressed and killed. Lu Li entered the dreamland right away to cultivate and heal his wounds in peace. The warship quickly tore through the air and searched the surroundings. Soon, the warship encountered prisoners of war. Tens of thousands of prisoners escaped, and many of them were not fast enough. Moreover, they had not recovered their battle prowess, and their bodies were very weak. Swish, swish, swish. With the elders holding the fort, the hall masters rushed down with their troops. Groups of soldiers flew down and began to suppress the enemy. As long as there was the slightest bit of resistance, they would be killed immediately. There was no reason to say anything. It wasn't easy for the captives to escape, so why would they surrender again? If they surrendered, they would be tortured to death. If that was the case, they might as well die now. Therefore, the prisoners of war they encountered were all very valiant and fought to the death. In the end, they were blasted into pieces. A few warships circled around the area, and the prisoners of war were found and chased down. Even the prisoners hiding underground were found and killed. This time, the Hell Palace didn't just send out these people. There were also experts leading the army to seal off the outer seas. Most likely, not many of the prisoners of war would be able to escape, unless it was an expert like Luo Sha. 14 days. The warship had been wandering around the area for 14 days and had killed at least 7,000 or 8,000 prisoners of war. The other warships must have killed many as well. After several rounds, there was no more prisoners of war. The patriarchs on the warship told several hall masters to continue to hunt for the escaped prisoners while they went back on the warship. Lu Li flew back to the Yama City with the warship. One day later, the warship arrived at the Yama City. The patriarchs left, and Lu Li was woken up. The leader woke him up and said with a smile, "Brother Lu, how are you doing?" This leader should be of the same rank as Momo. How come he called Lu Li brother? Lu Li felt flattered. After a pause, he stood up and said, "Lord, I am almost recovered. Don't call me Lord. My name is Huadong." The leader said with a smile, "If you don't mind, you can call me Brother Dong. Brother Lu, you're going to be rich this time. Just now, Elder Lu instructed me to report your matter to Hall Master Chun. I reckon that your reward will be coming soon. You'll definitely be given the position of a commander." Lu Li pretended to be overjoyed, but he didn't feel anything. For him, not even the position of patriarch, let alone a leader, meant anything. He didn't want to stay at the Devil's Sea all the time. He wanted to go to the Dragon Rebel Valley. Lu Li exchanged some pleasantries with the leader, and the leader led him to the Division of Internal Affairs. Outside the Division of Internal Affairs, Huadong came out after the time for one incense stick to burn. He patted Lu Li's shoulder and said, "Go in. Hall Master Chen wants to see you. I live in the 6th castle at the east. Come and have a drink with me when you have time." "Thank you, Brother Dong." Of course, of course." Lu Li and Huadong exchanged some pleasantries and then walked into the Division of Internal Affairs. Hall Master Chan was still sitting behind his desk. But this time, he didn't keep Lu Li waiting. After a while, he looked up and said, "Fourth Brother Lu, you did a good job. You didn't bring shame to the Division of Internal Affairs. Patriarch forepraised you in person. This is your honor. Someone come in." A warrior came in. Hall Master Chin said, "Assign a castle to Fourth Brother Lu. Fourth Brother Lu, go back and have some rest. I will give you a new one later." "Thank you, my lord." Lu Li cupped his fists and left. He was excited, but of course he was faking it. For average warriors, a castle in the city was a great honor. But for Lu Li, it meant nothing. It was just another place to live. Lu Li followed the warrior to the west of the city and entered an empty castle. It was a nice one. It was spacious, and there were 4 beautiful maids inside. Buzzing, Lu Li let San Ho out as soon as he went in. San Ho was surprised to see the castle. He checked with psychic power and asked in surprise, "Boss, we are back at the Yama City? Whose house is this?" "My house," Lu Li said lightly. "Home Master Chen gave it to me. I saved the deity by chance." "What?" San Ho was shocked. He asked Lu Li about what happened. Lu Li couldn't stand San Ho's pestering, so he gave a random explanation. San Ho was filled with admiration and admiration. "Boss, you're the boss. You saved the deity and you killed a 4th tribulation heaven god." "Impressive," San Ho exclaimed. Then he moved closer to Lu Li's ear with a smile and said, "Boss, you said the deity is in a coma? Did you take the chance to touch her?" "Piss off." Lu Li slapped San Ho away. This man was so obscene. All he could think about was dirty things. If it were San Ho, he would have slept with Sui Wechin. Chapter 2188. Lu Li lived comfortably in the castle for more than 10 days. Hosen lived a carefree life with Lu Li. Hosen even hooked up with a maid. Lu Li could tell that the maid was not a good person. The two of them fooled around and had sex every night. The fact that they were maids indicated that they were of low status and had no self-respect. Otherwise, they wouldn't be reduced to this state. The other 3 maids pretended to be decent, but they often flirted with Lu Li. It was because Lu Li didn't pay attention that the maid went to hook up with Hosan. Lu Li was the owner of the castle. If she could hook up with Lu Li, she could become his wife and get rid of her status. Unfortunately, Lu Li didn't take the bait. On the 18th day, Lu Li's new appointment came. Lu Li was surprised, and so was Hosan. Lu Li was appointed as the new commander of the captive camp. They had finally escaped from the captive camp, and now they had to go back again. But this time, Lu Li was going back as the commander, replacing Momo. Was there any need for the captive camp to exist when all the captives had escaped? What was Lu Li doing in the prisoner camp? Was he going to guard that empty camp? "Brother Lu, I know what you were worried about." It was Huadong who came to deliver the order. He said with a smile, "The scorch mines are very important to the Hell Palace. Even if there are no captives there, we will arrange for warriors to mine there." This time, they had captured some prisoners of war and also transferred some prisoners of war from Hell City over. Maintaining normal operations would not be a problem. Also, the Hell City has sent 2 patriarchs who are nearing the end of their lives to guard you. There are no powerful warriors among the captives. You'll be easy to manage. "Okay," Lu Li nodded. Although he was called a commander, he was actually just an assistant. It was the 2 dying patriarchs who were actually guarding the captive camp. Lu Li was only in charge of daily affairs. This time, 1,000 soldiers were transferred from the Hell Palace. Together with the soldiers who had escaped from the valley, there were a total of 1,800 soldiers. There were no powerful warriors among the captives, but there were still 2 powerful ones. It was quite comfortable to stay in the captive camp. Lu Li had made a great contribution by saving the immortal lady. Even though he had cultivated the supreme immortal body and could fight at the peak of the 3rd tribulation, it was not easy to assign him. What was more, Lu Li had just joined the Hell Palace. The higher-ups didn't dare to give him an important position. There will be a deputy commander, right? Lu Li asked a critical question. He had never held any position in the Hell Palace before. Would the Underworld Palace feel at ease letting him lead a place? There must be someone assisting him or someone monitoring him. Yes, there's a deputy commander. He's an old man who used to be the captain of the city defense camp. Huadong smiled and said to Lu Li in a low voice, "Brother Lu, don't worry. Nobody dares to make things difficult for you. The goddess is still recuperating from her injuries. She'll probably make a special trip here to thank you once she recovers. You'll definitely be put in an important position again." Lu Li was embarrassed. He didn't want the immortal lady to come over. Once Sui Wechin came, Nothing good would come out of it. She might beat him up. After sending Huadong off, Ho-san immediately leaned over with a face full of joy. He cupped his fists and said, "Boss, congratulations. Gold will shine wherever it is. I originally thought that boss would need at least a few years to rise, but I didn't expect that you would become a commander in such a short time. I reckon that you will soon become an elder." Boss, you don't seem very happy." Luli didn't show any emotion. He didn't pay attention to Ho-san either. He was in a dilemma. He didn't want to stay at the Devil's Sea forever. Once he took over the position, it would be hard for him to get out. Would he have to stay at the Hell Island for years, or even decades? "I'll stay here for now." After a while, Luli made up his mind. He would stay in the captive camp. When he mastered the dragon wrestling skill, his abilities would soar. By then, he could find a way to leave the Hell Island. It had been a long time. The pure heaven blood eagle race wouldn't come after him anymore, would they? "I will cultivate in seclusion. Also, I will find a way to ask for information about Qin Zhan, Gan Lin, and the old man." Luli looked at Ho-san. This Ho-san was a good choice. Luli would find a way to earn some divine stones so that he could ask Ho-san for information. Luli thought about it for a day. The next day, he took Ho-san to the Hall of Internal Affairs to meet Master Chun and his assistant. Master Chun was a strong middle-aged man. He was not young, and he was at the peak of the third tribulation. He was quite dignified. "Greetings, Commander Liu." The deputy commander's name was Li Jin. He seemed to be polite, but he was arrogant inside. Clearly, he was not convinced. He had been working at the Hell Palace for almost 100 years, and he was only a deputy commander. Luli looked young, but he was more powerful than Li Jin. More importantly, Luli was only at the second tribulation realm. Supreme immortal body? There were many in the world that cultivated the supreme immortal body, but how many of them had mastered it? As far as Li Jin could tell, Luli was on the wrong path and had no future. Li Jin had doubts about Luli's abilities as well. Luli nodded and didn't pay much attention to Li Jin. This made Li Jin even angrier, but he couldn't do anything. They went out and teleported to the captive camp. Luli exclaimed that he was back in the valley again. After so many twists and turns, he was back. This time, many familiar faces were gone. In their place were many new ones. There weren't many captives here, but all the troops were here. They were standing on the plaza, waiting for Luli. "Greetings, Commander Liu." "Greetings, Commander Li." A group of warriors dropped to one knee, saluted, and shouted. Luli glanced over and saw a familiar face. Yellow Tooth was not killed. He was back with the team, and he was the team leader. "Let's go. Get back to work." What surprised Luli was, before he could say anything, Li Jin had overstepped his authority and gave the order. He was dignified and had an extraordinary bearing. Many warriors stood up out of instinct and were about to leave. Whoosh! A glint of coldness rose in Li's eyes. He swung his arm and slapped at Li Jin's face. Li Jin was stunned. He didn't expect that Luli would dare to hit him. Luli was so fast that Li Jin was smashed away before he could react. Boom! Luli used 60 to 70% of his strength in this move. Some of Li Jin's teeth were knocked out. His face was swollen like a pig's head. He rolled on the ground and spat out blood when he crawled up. Ho-san was dumbfounded. Yellow Tooth and the others were dumbfounded. Many warriors were dumbfounded. What was this new commander doing? He slapped a deputy commander as soon as he arrived? He didn't have to slap a deputy commander even if he wanted to show his power. Courting death, Li Jin flew into a rage. Luli slapped him in front of so many warriors had driven him mad. He took out a long sword and was about to charge at Luli. "Are you the commander here, or am I?" Luli didn't move. He looked at Li Jin coldly and shouted, "Are you going against your superior? Someone, if Li Jin wants to make a move, kill him." Military orders were like mountains, and these soldiers were used to obeying orders. Many soldiers involuntarily wanted to take out their weapons. Yellow Tooth's eyes turned, and he took out his weapon and locked it on Li Jin. With a murderous aura, he shouted, "We obey the commander's orders." "Yes, commander." Chapter 2189. Luli knew that Li Jin would not be convinced. Not only Li Jin, but many other warriors would as well. Therefore, if he wanted to continue living here peacefully, he had to establish his might and make everyone submit to him. If he didn't suppress the soldiers, how could he lead the troops in the future? Li Jin was at the peak of the third tribulation, but just an average one. Lu Li could defeat him easily. Not to mention anything else, he could suppress him with just his physical body alone. Today, he slapped him in front of a group of soldiers. He wanted to establish his might and let all the soldiers know who was the boss here. Yellow Tooth was smart. He knew that Lu Li was powerful. Now that Lu Li was the commander, he had some friendship with Lu Li. Naturally, he would cling to Lu Li. What was there to be afraid of offending a deputy commander? Lu Li was a commander. Yes, commander. After Yellow Tooth and the others shouted, more soldiers took out their weapons and locked onto Li Jin. There was strict discipline in the army. Military orders must be obeyed. Lu Li was the boss here, so naturally, they would listen to his orders. Li Jin was very embarrassed. His eyes were a little red. He had been in the underworld palace for nearly 100 years, but he had never been bullied like this. He wished he could stab Lu Li to death. But reason told him that he had better not act rashly, or he would be killed by the warriors. He had been in the city defense army for many years and knew that soldiers only listened to military orders. If he acted recklessly, this group of soldiers would not be polite and would directly kill him. Therefore, he looked at Lu Li with hatred and said, "Commander Lu, what have I done wrong? Why did you hit me directly? If you don't give me an explanation, even if I go to the Elders' Hall, I won't let this matter rest." Li Jin was furious. He was indignant and filled with righteous indignation. He looked like a child who had been beaten by his father for no reason, extremely ashamed and indignant. "What did I do wrong?" Lu Li snorted and said, "Are you the commander or am I? Are you the boss here or am I the boss? I haven't even given the order, yet you dare to give it? You can go to the Hall of Elders to complain about this matter." Li Jin was speechless and didn't know how to refute. It was indeed his fault. He also wanted to establish his dominance. He wanted to take advantage of Lu Li's young age and suppress him. From now on, he would be the boss here. But he didn't expect Lu Li to be so cruel. It was a direct slap to his face. "What about you? You're not convinced?" Lu Li smiled lightly and said, "You think I sneaked up on you, so you're not convinced? Do you want me to give you a chance for a fair fight? If you win, the position of commander here will be yours, and I'll just leave. If you lose, you'll have to obediently listen to my orders." This, Li Jin was surprised. He didn't expect Lu Li to be so arrogant. Deep down, he was not convinced. He thought Lu Li was not strong enough, and it was just a sneak attack. But he didn't say yes right away. After all, to fight with Lu Li would be to go against his superior. The higher-ups of the Hell Palace would be dissatisfied if this matter was spread out. However, with the current situation, it was hard for him to back down. He thought for a moment, then gritted his teeth and said, "All right, I'll experience the commander's brilliant moves." Spread out. Yellow Tooth's eyes were filled with excitement, and many of the soldiers were also excited. The two new commanders had just been promoted, and this was the time for them to understand their combat strength. Deep down, they were not convinced of Lu Li's superiority. Now that they were presented with such a good opportunity, of course, they were excited. The soldiers scattered to the sides and made way for the center of the plaza. Hosen stood on the side, excited but nervous at the same time. What if Lu Li lost? Lu Li stood where he was calmly. The sword in Li Jin's hand glowed. He lifted it up slowly, and his momentum grew. He was like a demon coming to the world. He had been a team leader for many years and had hundreds of men under his command. Over the years, he had developed a strong momentum. He was tall and strong, and he looked valiant with the sword in his hand. Lu Li was on the thin side, more like a young master. He didn't have any weapon in his hand. He just stood there quietly, and he didn't release any momentum. Compared to Li Jin, he was more like a delicate scholar. "Commander Lu, watch out!" Li Jin shouted. He kicked on the ground and leaped up. He rushed towards Lu Li like a bolt of lightning. Holding the sword in both hands, he hacked at Lu Li's head like a thunderbolt. His dueling sword drew a white glare in midair, causing a deafening noise. A surge of horrifying chi and energy spread out, suffocating the warriors tens of thousands of feet behind Lu Li. How? Hosan was not good at fighting, but he had sharp eyes. His heart skipped a beat when he saw this. There was nothing special about Li Jin's move. The only thing was that it was ferocious. If Lu Li was hit, he would be seriously injured or wounded no matter how strong his defense was. If Lu Li's head was hit, his head would explode and he would die instantly. But Lu Li didn't move. He didn't dodge or attack. Instead, he did something strange. He closed his eyes. Everyone gasped. This was such a horrifying attack, and the new commander didn't dodge. Instead, he closed his eyes. Was he out of his mind? Was the new commander going to be replaced on the first day of his appointment? Lu Li was not out of his mind. He wanted to win, and he wanted to do it cleanly. Therefore, he closed his eyes and activated the trace of Tao to enhance his senses. Swish, the heavy sword came at Lu Li with a horrifying storm. When it was about to hit Lu Li's head, he finally moved. He moved his head slightly to the side, and his fist glowed in golden light. Then he punched forward with great force. Brute force. Lu Li had faith in his defense. Li Jin's attack was good, but it couldn't destroy his shoulder. Lu Li would only be wounded. That being said, Li Jin could not stand this punch. Li Jin was surprised. Was Lu Li risking his life? He had two choices, to step back or to take the brute force head-on. If he retreated, all the effort he had put in to accumulate his power would be wasted. He thought for a moment and decided to fight recklessly. His sword was longer. If he could smash Lu Li away in an instant, then Lu Li wouldn't be able to attack him. Boom! With a muffled sound, all the warriors felt their hearts tremble. Lu Li and Li Jin were smashed away at the same time. What was different was that Lu Li stepped back for more than 100 feet, while Li Jin was smashed away. Blood gushed out from his mouth. Hiss, hiss! Many warriors gasped and stared at Lu Li in disbelief. The armor on Lu Li's shoulder was cracked. There was some blood on his shoulder, but it was just a scratch. On the other hand, there was a hole in Li Jin's chest. His ribs were broken, and his internal organs must have been shattered. Boom! Li Jin's body fell heavily to the ground. He rolled a few times and struggled to get up. Blood gushed out of his mouth again. He opened his eyes wide, and they were filled with shock. Lu Li touched the broken armor, took out a healing pellet, and took it. Looking at Li Jin calmly, he said, "Commander Li, do you believe me? I want to tell you, that was just a regular move. Also, when I saved the goddess, I killed a badly wounded warrior of the Fourth Tribulation. I'm not lying." Everyone was stunned. Some had heard of the rumor, but they didn't know it was true. A badly wounded warrior of the Fourth Tribulation was still a warrior of the Fourth Tribulation. Yellow Tooth was sweating. Luckily, he didn't offend Lu Li too much before, or else he would be a corpse now. Chapter 2190. Now that Li Jin was convinced, Lu Li's life in the future was much easier. With the help of Yellow Tooth and others, Lu Li had established absolute authority in the camp. There weren't many prisoners of war yet, and there weren't any powerful warriors among them. It was easy to control them. Lu Li and Li Jin went to visit the two patriarchs in charge. They were the real powerful warriors in charge of the camp. They didn't pay much attention to Lu Li. One of them hadn't seen them yet, and the other just had a few words with them before they left. The two patriarchs didn't have much time left in their lives. They didn't want to waste their time on trivial matters. As long as there was no chaos in the valley, they wouldn't care about anything else. For the next few days, Lu Li was busy. As the commander, he had to manage. But he was busy for the sake of a more comfortable life in the future. He had to set some rules so that all the prisoners of war could operate within strict rules. He took Hosan with him every day. This was the person he focused on training. In the future, Hosan would carry out Lu Li's will perfectly and manage the camp for him. Also, Yellow Tooth was good at handling affairs. Lu Li focused on training him as well. He needed several people to do things, or else he would be exhausted. There were only thousands of prisoners of war. None of them were powerful warriors, so it was easy to manage. Lu Li also emphasized the rules. As long as the prisoners were obedient, They could not be beaten or scolded, and they must be given time to rest. Also, Luli sent a message to all the prisoners of war. He would go to the Hall of Patriarchs to apply for the time of the prisoners of war and sentence them according to their crimes. For example, they could serve for 100,000 years, 10,000 years, or thousands of years. If they performed well, their sentence could be reduced. Of course, Luli couldn't make the decision. He knew it was hard to make the application. He was doing this to give hope to the prisoners of war. Once a person had hope, they would be able to live on. Otherwise, the days and years of hard labor would drive them to suicide or riot. Luli sent out the message. The prisoners of war were excited at once. Luli had been strict with them during this time. The army didn't abuse or humiliate them at will. The prisoners of war were in a better state of mind, and they were more efficient. Hosan was in high spirits. Even though he didn't have a position, he was with Luli and was Luli's follower. All the captains were fawning on him, which made him feel good. He was well aware of his position. Luli needed him to do something. If he messed up, Luli would throw him into the scorching flame mines. Therefore, he was very responsible and had a good relationship with the captains. He treated the prisoners of war with dignity, but he never mistreated them. Half a month later, more prisoners of war were transferred over. These prisoners of war were all serving in other places. Coming here, they felt that it was heaven. In addition, due to the influence of the former captives, they were all very obedient. Li Jin had been keeping a low profile during this time as well. He must have been upset, but he couldn't beat Luli. What was more, all the warriors listened to Luli. Luli could not do anything even if he was unhappy. He had to stay here for now and figure out a way to be transferred. After a month, the captive camp was on the right track. Luli was relieved. Li Jin was in charge. Hosan was in charge, and Yellow Tooth and the others cooperated. 2 patriarchs were in charge. All the rules were set. Luli didn't have to worry about the captive camp. Luli went back to his own castle to cultivate. He began to study the dragon wrestling skill. Hosan would inform him at once if anything happened. Hosan had planted some spies among the prisoners of war, and he had spies among the warriors as well. The entire captive camp was under Hosan's surveillance. Hosan's surveillance was equivalent to Li's surveillance. Nothing in the valley could escape Hosan's eyes. The Internal Affairs Hall had spies in the captive camp. At first, Master Chun was worried that Luli would not be able to control the situation and manage the captive camp. Now, Master Chun was relieved. Luli was a talent and deserved to be trained. If he could reach the 4th tribulation, Master Chun could recommend him to be a hall master. Luli paid no attention to the outside world. He was not interested in power. When he was the emperor, he left the management to others. He was used to being a hands-off boss. That being said, he had a good eye for people and his territory was never messed up. He focused on the dragon wrestling skill, which was a powerful skill that could increase his abilities. Nothing was more important than that. Only with absolute abilities could he run amok in the world. The dragon wrestling skill was broad and profound. Luli had only scratched the surface. What he had was only an incomplete copy. If he had the complete version, it would be even more difficult for him to master it. Luli entered the dreamland. While cultivating divine energy, his soul, he was studying, and at the same time, he was cultivating the art of bone refinement. This was not a skill unique to Luli. As a matter of fact, when one's soul was strong enough, one could multitask. He could cultivate divine energy step by step. His soul could absorb nourishment, and he could control the art of bone refinement after such a long time. Time flew by. Soon, 3 months had passed. The captive camp had been peaceful, and the Hell Island had calmed down as well. Both the Hell Island and the Palace of Rakshasa needed to rest and build up their strength. They needed fresh blood. Luli was a good one. The captive camp was peaceful, and the higher-ups were happy. Master Chun sent over top-level elixirs and a skill book. He said it was a reward from the Hell Island, so that Luli would be grateful to the Hell Island and serve them wholeheartedly. Luli accepted the gifts, but he did not give up wholeheartedly. His heart was not here. He was thinking about the Dragon Rebel Valley and the Flying Fire Continent. The elixirs sent over by the Hell Island were good. Most of them could nourish the soul. Lu Li's soul had always been weak. If it were not for the protection of the dragon soul, he would have died many times. This time, there were top-level elixirs that could be of great help in cultivating divine energy. The abundance of divine energy could not increase a warrior's abilities by too much. That being said, without abundant divine energy, many powerful moves could not be released. Take Lu Li's relic iron as an example. In the past, he could not release the full power of the relic iron. Every time he used it, the divine energy would be used up. This was just a fragment of a holy weapon. If it were a complete imperial weapon, or even a holy weapon, how much divine energy would be needed to activate it? Not even a warrior of the fourth tribulation could utilize the full power of the relic. Time moved on. Another month later, Lu Li's peaceful life was disturbed. People came to the captive camp, 4 of them. After they arrived, the entire camp was in an uproar. 3 of them were warriors of the fourth tribulation, and 1 of them was Master Chun of the Division of Internal Affairs. But that was not the point. What mattered most was a fairy-like lady had come. There were few women in the captive camp. Even if there were, they would be ugly and inhuman after being tortured. How could they have the chance to see such a beautiful lady? As soon as they left the valley, all the captives and warriors' eyes glowed. They were like hungry wolves that saw a tasty lamb. Of course, they could only look. Nobody moved or showed any aggressive looks. This lady was a warrior of the fourth tribulation, an important figure in the Hell Island. Chapter 2191. Sui Wetchin had indeed come looking for trouble. Her injuries from last time were too severe and damaged her foundation. She had been recuperating in seclusion and had only come out a few days ago. The goddess had an esteemed status, and as soon as she came out of seclusion, there were naturally people who came to greet her. Many people also talked about that battle, and most of them were flattering and praising her, saying that Su Yuechin's combat prowess was formidable and that she was able to kill Old Devil Xia. Of course, there were some who let slip that Lu Li had saved her and asked her to thank him when she had the time. She could not lose her dignity as a goddess. Sui Wetchin had forgotten about Lu Li at first. She only remembered after someone reminded her. She sent someone to investigate at once and learned about Lu Li's current situation. She was enraged. As far as she could tell, she used the last of her strength to kill Monster Xia. Not Lu Li. Lu Li, the thief, had run away several times without caring about her life or death. A person who was originally a sinner actually became the hero. Who saved her? At this moment, she was even promoted. How could Sui Wetchin endure this? Immediately, she angrily teleported to Yama City and found Hall Master Chun in the prison camp. Sui Wetchin was rational enough to not yell at Lu Li in the valley and ask him to get out. She brought the 3 of them into the castle with a serious face. Hosan saw that something was wrong and quickly ran into the castle to report to Lu Li. Lu Li didn't panic after he was alarmed. He would deal with the situation as it came. Worst came to worst. He could just give up his job as a commander. Old Devil Xia's strongest attack was indeed his. This Sui Wetchin wouldn't bite the hand that fed her, right? He straightened his robe, walked out of the castle hall, and waited quietly. Soon, a whiff of fragrance wafted over, and Sui Wetchin led the 3 into the castle. Lu Li bowed calmly and said, "Greetings, goddess, lords, clan leader Chun." After bowing, Hosan felt that the atmosphere wasn't right, so he quietly left, leaving the hall to them. Sui Wetchin expressionlessly walked to the main seat, and a divine power flew out to open the castle's restriction. Then she looked at Lu Li coldly and said, "Fourth brother Lu, do you know your crime?" Lu Li remained calm. He stood up straight and said, "What are you talking about, holy lady? I don't know what crime I've committed." Sui Wetchin's body surged with killing intent as she coldly said, "You fled twice in the face of battle. You still dare to disobey this goddess order?" Then he falsely claimed credit for killing Old Devil Xia. "You're really thick-skinned. Is this commander's position comfortable?" "I'm not feeling well," Lu Li said calmly. "One order from the goddess, and I will be gone." As for what the goddess said, some of it was true. I did escape. If I didn't escape, I would have died. Old Devil Xia's battle prowess was too strong. Could it be that I have to die just because the goddess wants me to die? In addition, the one who sent Old Devil Xia on his way was indeed me. The goddess's final attack heavily injured Old Devil Xia, but he didn't die. If it wasn't for me, would the goddess still be sitting here peacefully? I remember that the corpse of Old Xia was brought back, right? You can go and take a look. Did he die from your attack or mine? Sui Waqin was taken aback. She had thought that Lu Li would be scared out of his wits when she came to question him. Little did she expect that Lu Li wouldn't change his expression and would argue for what was right. She could not refute him. She turned to a patriarch, one of the patriarchs that went to rescue her. That patriarch thought about it and said, "Goddess, according to the analysis of the corpse, it seems that Old Devil Xia did not die under the Heaven Universe sword. His head was smashed by a strong force. I think it was Lu Si who killed him." Sui Waqin said nothing. She was embarrassed, and soon, her embarrassment turned into anger. She was here to denounce Lu Li, but she was rendered speechless. Lu Li was guilty of deserting in the face of danger, but it was a fact that he had saved her, even though Lu Li only took advantage of the situation. If she didn't injure Demon Xia, Lu Li wouldn't have been able to kill him. Sui Waqin felt aggrieved. She felt that she had been beaten up, and there was no place for her to reason with. She took a deep breath and said, "I don't care if you killed Old Devil Xia or not. Disobeying orders is a serious crime. You did not save him and disobeyed orders. These two are enough to kill you." "Ha ha ha." Lu Li laughed and said in an unruly manner, "Kill me? I saved you and you want to kill me? Do you think you can control anyone's life or death just because you are a goddess? Do you think that everyone from the Underworld Palace will die for you? Do you think many people will kneel to you when you give the order? Fine, kill me then, kill me. I want to see. If the news of the goddess of the Hell Palace biting the hand that fed her and killing her savior spreads, how will you continue to stay in Rakshasa Sea? How dare you?" A patriarch could not help but scold. Lu Li was too arrogant. Under other circumstances, the patriarch would have slapped Lu Li. But given the current situation, he could not do anything. Otherwise, people would know that the Hell Palace was biting the hand that fed them. Courting death. Sui Waqin's killing intent was getting stronger. She pulled out her Heaven Universe sword and was about to cut Lu Li. "Goddess, don't be impulsive." A patriarch said at once, "Fourth young Master Lu is just a nobody. Killing him will affect your reputation. Now, everyone at the Hell Palace knows that he saved you. If you kill him, you will not be able to clear your name. Everyone here has seen you. Unless you kill everyone here." Phew. Sui Waqin kept taking breaths to force herself to calm down. The patriarch was right. Lu Li was just a nobody. Killing him wouldn't make much sense. Instead, it would affect her reputation. Lu Li was betting that Sui Waqin wouldn't dare to kill him. He didn't care about the position of a team leader, and he didn't want to stay here for long. He said calmly, "Goddess Patriarch's Master Chun, about that, I was wrong. I don't have the face to stay at the Hell Palace any longer. Please let me out. I promise you that I will not talk nonsense from now on. I will leave the Devil's Sea and find a place to stay." Lu Li was not retreating for the sake of advancing. He really wanted to leave. Sui Waqin had come to him. It seemed that he would not have a good life in the future. If so, then he must leave. Otherwise, he would be tortured to death. Master Chun and the two patriarchs were stunned. They were hesitating. Lu Li had offended Sui Waqin. It was a good thing to let him go, in case Sui Waqin would kill him out of anger. That would be a bad influence. Sui Waqin smiled and did not say anything. She turned and walked outside. After opening the restriction, she turned and said, "Commander Lu, don't worry. I won't make trouble for you in the future. You can stay on Hell Island with peace of mind." Lu Li's heart was weighed down. It seemed that Sui Waqin was furious. She didn't want him to leave. She was going to punish him secretly. He was right. Sui Waqin teleported back to the Hell City with the two patriarchs. Sui Waqin ordered Master Chun at once. "Master Chun, send someone to keep an eye on him these days. Don't let him get away. I will transfer him away in a couple of days." "Transfer? To where?" Master Chun was surprised. Sui Waqin put on a cold smile and said, "He wants a run? Not so easy. I will transfer him to the Valley of Ghosts and let him have a good time there. Valley of Ghosts. Chapter 2192. The Hell Island had some relics, secret areas, shattered spaces, and so on. The Valley of Ghosts was an entrance to a shattered space. The Valley of Ghosts was famous at the Hell Island and even at the Devil's Sea. The Nether Ghost Valley was connected to the Nether Spirit World. It was a powerful broken land in the void. There were many terrifying existences and treasures in there. The Nether Ghost Valley was the place that connected to the Nether Spirit World. The Valley of Ghosts was protected by a strong enchantment. But every now and then, some strange beings would break out. The warriors guarding the Valley of Ghosts were the most pitiful. Nobody knew when they would die. Sui Wachin wanted to send Lu Li to the Valley of Ghosts. She was trying to kill him. Too many people had died in Nether Ghost Valley. And those who had been sent, they were all people who had failed, offended others, or made mistakes. There were tens of thousands of warriors stationed there all year round. But almost every 10 years, half of the warriors would be sent there because half of the warriors would die. Not to mention ordinary soldiers, even commanders and elders would die from time to time. The Immortal Lady was not an official position at the Hell Palace, but she had a special status. Sui Wachin was the granddaughter of the palace master. Her words carried weight. Not even the average patriarchs would disobey her, let alone Master Chun. Of course, Sui Wachin had a sense of propriety. She would not do anything outrageous. For example, what she was doing now was not outrageous as far as people were concerned. Lu Li deserting in the face of danger was a serious crime. Even though he saved the Immortal Lady by chance, people could tell that Lu Li was not loyal to the Hell Palace, especially when he said he was leaving the Hell Palace. People didn't like Lu Li anymore. He was just a warrior. If he died, then so be it. There were so many warriors of the Valley of Ghosts, and some of them had survived. If Lu Li could survive, it would be because of his abilities. Sui Wachin went back. Master Chen arranged someone to monitor Lu Li so that he could not run away. Otherwise, Lu Li would be in trouble when Sui Wachin blamed him. In just one day, Lu Li sensed that he was being monitored. He could sense everything around him by using the trace of Tao. He could sense that someone was secretly monitoring him, and it wasn't just one or two people, but more than 10. He even felt a faintly discernible chi and energy locked onto him. It must be one of the two patriarchs. I can't get away. Lu Li frowned. He was not worried that Sui Wachin would kill him. She wouldn't take the risk. She wouldn't kill him in public. She would only plot against him in secret. What he needed to do next was to defend himself and avoid the arrows that were shot from the gutter. He looked for Ho San and asked him to secretly monitor the situation in the captive camp, in case someone was up to something. He thought too much. Although Sui Wachin wanted to mess with him, she wouldn't go so far as to drag the entire captive camp into it. Nothing happened in the next 10 days. On the 11th day, Elder Chun brought a group of soldiers over to announce his new appointment. It was said that Lu Li had performed meritorious deeds in the past. During this period of time, he had been working hard in the captive camp and managed the camp very well. Therefore, the higher-ups had decided to promote him. If he went to another place to be a commander, his salary would be doubled. Netherworld Valley. Ho San trembled when he heard the name. Lu Li looked at Ho San and asked at once, "What is this place? Is it scary?" One of the most horrifying places of the Hell Island. Ho San took a few deep breaths and replied, "This place is an entrance to a broken space. There are many evil beings in there. Every year, many warriors die here. Immortal Lady is up to no good. She wants to kill you. A promotion on the surface, but a demotion on the inside. She was openly promoting Lu Li and giving him benefits. Outsiders would have nothing to say against her. If Lu Li was sent to the Netherworld Valley and Lu Li died because of his inferior skills, nobody would say anything about it to Sui Wachin. What a good plan." Lu Li's face turned gloomy. He thought he should have killed Sui Wachin that day, or held her hostage, or even raped her. Looking at the team led by clan leader Chun, Lu Li forced a smile. He would have to go to the Netherworld Valley even if he didn't want to. This was a military order, and military orders must be obeyed. If he disobeyed, Clan leader Chun had the right to kill him on the spot. Luli looked at Ho San and asked, Ho San, are you coming with me or staying here? Ho San's mouth twitched. He was in a dilemma. If he went to the Netherworld Valley with Luli, he might die a miserable death. If he didn't go, it would be hard for him to survive here. Once Luli left, Li Jin would be the leader. Ho San was Lu Li's follower. Would he have a good ending? Maybe he would be killed by Li Jin. Boss, I will go with you. Ho San made up his mind and said he might have a chance of survival if he went with Lu Li. If he stayed, he would wish he was dead, even if he could survive. Lu Li nodded. He looked at Clan Leader Chun and said, Clan Leader Chun, I can go to the Netherworld Valley, but I want to take Ho San with me. Can you give him the position of Vice Commander? But Clan Leader Chun thought about it and said, I don't have the right to be a Vice Commander, but I can be a team leader. Okay. Lu Li just wanted to take Ho San with him. The position was not important. If he could survive in the Netherworld Valley, Ho San's position would rise. If he couldn't, Ho San wouldn't be of any use even if he was a team leader. Time is of the essence. Let's go. Seeing that Lu Li was being cooperative, Clan Leader Chun was relieved. If Lu Li were to make a scene, Clan Leader Chun would be able to suppress him, but it would be troublesome. After all, Clan Leader Chun had to pay attention to the impact. Li Jin, you will be in charge here for now. Clan Leader Chun waved his hand. Li Jin was overjoyed. Now that he was in charge, he would be the team leader. Yellow Tooth and the others, on the other hand, felt bitter. They wouldn't have a good life after Lu Li left. Lu Li and Ho San went to the Yama City with Clan Leader Chun. Then, Clan Leader Chun took them to the teleportation formation and teleported them to the Netherworld Valley. It was a long teleportation. After more than 4 hours, Lu Li found himself in a castle. There was a team of warriors guarding the castle. Clan Leader Chun showed his token, and a warrior led them out. Lu Li used his psychic power to check the situation at the Netherworld Valley. Dim. There was a huge valley outside with towering mountains on both sides. There was a faint white glow above the mountains. Clearly, there was a barrier. The sky here was very dim, and it felt lifeless. They were at the entrance of the valley. There were more than 1,000 castles and bungalows nearby. The deeper they went into the valley, the darker it was. There was an evil and cold chi coming from the depth of the valley, spooky and uncomfortable. There were hundreds of warriors patrolling in the valley. More warriors lived in bungalows and castles. At the moment, Clan Leader Chun was taking Lu Li to a huge castle. This is bad. After a while, Lu Li put on a bitter smile. This place was enveloped by a strong enchantment which seemed to be indestructible. In other words, if he wanted to leave this place, he had to go through the teleportation formation in the castle. The castles were all guarded by warriors. Without a token, Lu Li could not get close. Chapter 2193. It had been more than 10 days since they arrived at the Valley of Ghosts. Lu Li and Ho San had gathered a lot of information and learned about the Valley of Ghosts. The Valley of Ghosts was a perilous place as well as a land of treasures. Dangers and opportunities coexisted here. Shattered Void. This was a strange landscape. It was like a small world inside, but different from regular worlds. To be exact, it was a broken world, an incomplete world. The laws of this world were not complete, and there were many strange and terrifying places. Some of the voids had no light, some of them had no air, some of them were filled with ferocious gales, some of them were filled with evil things, and some of them were filled with demons and monsters. Since the laws in the Shattered Void were incomplete, many strange things could happen and some treasures could be found. In other words, anything was possible here. The Valley of Ghosts was such a strange place. There were many miraculous medicines and items, but there were also many evil beings. Every once in a while, those evil beings would come out. The warriors here were here to guard against those evil beings. The Palace of Hell needed the resources, so there must be guards here. Also, if those evil beings were allowed to get out, the entire Hell Island would be in chaos. Lu Li was a chief commander. It sounded like a chief commander's position was higher than a commander's, but Lu Li realized that his position was nothing There were over 10,000 warriors in the Valley of Ghosts, divided into 10 battalions and 10 commanders. Theoretically speaking, the 10 commanders were under Lu Li's command, but that was not the case. All the commanders here were under the command of a patriarch. Lu Li was the boss in name, but the patriarch was the real boss. Since this place was so important, the Hell Island would naturally send powerful warriors to guard it. There were 10 patriarchs here. 9 patriarchs were not in charge of daily affairs, and 1 patriarch was in charge of daily affairs. If the patriarch was not in charge, then Lu Li would be the boss here, and all the 10 commanders would listen to him. However, this patriarch was in charge of the 10 commanders. Lu Li was a mere figurehead. He could not afford to offend the patriarchs who were 4th Tribulation warriors. None of the commanders paid attention to him. Even though they seemed to be polite to him, inside, they despised him. Some of them even sneered at him. They didn't take him seriously at all. Lu Li originally wanted to be like a prisoner of war camp, using powerful means to subdue his subordinates. However, after seeing the current situation, he couldn't be bothered anymore. Above, there were elders suppressing, and below, there were commanders who did not listen to orders. Even if he forcefully suppressed them, it would be useless. Rather than wasting time, he might as well hide in his castle and cultivate quietly. He arranged for Ho San to be a team leader in charge of more than 100 people. He didn't care about anything else. Patriarch Yang and the 10 commanders who had real power here didn't make things difficult for Ho San, since Lu Li didn't fight for power or meddle in affairs. They still had to give face to Lu Li. Otherwise, if Lu Li made a scene, they would be in trouble as well. After Sui Wechin transferred Lu Li over, she didn't care about anything else. She didn't say anything about killing Lu Li. As far as she was concerned, setting Lu Li up was enough to vent her anger. If Lu Li could survive in the Valley of Ghosts, it would be his capability. At first, Lu Li wanted to do a roll call, but after half a month, he didn't go out anymore. Those commanders and Patriarch Yang didn't want to see him. They would be happy if he didn't go. It was better for him to cultivate in the castle. His dragon wrestling skill was about to be mastered. When he mastered it, he could release 10 times his strength. By then, he could even fight a warrior of the 4th Tribulation realm. It was dangerous here. Would Sui Wechin send someone to plot against him? Lu Li didn't know. Therefore, he must improve his abilities as soon as possible. After he could save his life, he would find a way to leave the Hell Island. His time in the prisoner of war camp was comfortable. Hosai was even plotting how to get black flame crystals to earn divine stones. Only then could he send someone to get information about Qin Zhan and Gan Lin. Now, everything was like a reflection in the mirror. He could lose his life at any time. Lu Li had to put all these thoughts aside and focus on cultivation. After cultivating for more than half a month, Lu Li was alerted. Patriarch Yang sent someone to get him. He was asked to go with the 2 battalions to the Ghost Realm to wipe out demons. Wipe out demons? Is Sui Wechin going to do something to me? Lu Li frowned. He had wronged Sui Wechin. It was Patriarch Yang who wanted Lu Li to do something because he was living too comfortably. From time to time, wretched devils would rush out of the spirit realm, and the soldiers would occasionally enter the spirit realm to kill some of them. At the same time, they would also enter the spirit realm to harvest divine herbs. Military orders must be obeyed. Lu Li didn't dare to disobey. He went out and went with the warriors of the 2 battalions. Greetings, Commander. The 2 commanders had been waiting with the army. They were displeased to see Lu Li late. They cupped their fists casually to salute him. Let's go. Lu Li waved his hand indifferently. One of the 2 commanders was surnamed Huang and the other Chao. Both were at the peak of the 3rd Tribulation. Commander Huang was older, but Commander Chao was young. Of course, he was much older than Lu Li. More than 2,000 warriors walked into the depths of the Valley of Ghosts. The warriors here were quite capable. The fact that they could stay here for such a long time was proof enough. Lu Li was in the middle. He followed the team into the depths of the Valley of Ghosts. In the deepest part of the valley was a huge teleportation portal. There were many runes on the inside and outside of the portal. Luli also noticed that there were at least 10 layers of seals outside to prevent demons from breaking in. Go in and fight at will. Commander Huang waved his hand, and the soldiers in front rushed into the portal. Groups of soldiers followed closely behind, entering in an endless stream. When more than half of the warriors went in, Commander Huang cupped his fist to Lu Li and said, "Commander, let's go as well." Lu Li nodded and rushed into the portal with the two leaders. As soon as he came in, Lu Li sensed something was off. A chilly air enveloped him, making him shiver. There were sounds of explosions all around. Many warriors were fighting. It was the first time that Lu Li had seen the demons in the broken void. They were truly evil. It was dark in the wilderness. The soil was black, and there were not many plants. The Xianxi in heaven and earth was so thin that it was scary. Bones were everywhere. Lu Li felt this was hell. There were some black forests nearby, and strange creatures were rushing out of those black forests. Those strange creatures were black in color. Their lower body was that of a beast, like a scorpion, and their upper body was that of a human. Their faces were ferocious, like ghosts. Those demons breathed out black air from their mouths and moved as fast as the wind. Their tails could shoot out poisonous stingers, and their mouths could spit out poison. Their hands had sharp pincers. Before they started fighting, their appearance alone was enough to send chills down one's spine. But the warriors that came in seemed to be used to this. They were not afraid at all. They fought at will against the demons. The battle prowess of the army here was indeed much stronger. Although the demons were very strong, they could still kill them one by one. "Commander, do you want to warm up?" Chapter 2194. Okay. Commander Chao's provocation didn't work on Lu Li, but Lu Li still nodded. He wanted to fight against the demons and learn more about them, which would be helpful for his survival in the future. The demons of the ghost realm were not limited to the ones in front of him. There were 4 kinds of them, and the human-faced scorpion was one of them, the lowest level and the most numerous. If Lu Li couldn't even defeat this kind of demon, he would rather smash his head against a tree and die. Each of the 4 types of demons was more horrifying than the previous one. The most horrifying one was the Phantom King. Once it came out, even patriarchs outside would have a hard time, and they would ask for help from the Hell Palace. But the number of Phantom Kings was small. Some were killed by the Hell Palace, and there were less than 10 left. Phantom Kings were highly intelligent. Without enough power and confidence, they wouldn't invade the Valley of Ghosts. There were also 2 other types of evil devils. One was the Ghost Worm, and the other was the Ghost Monster. Phantom Worms were numerous as well, second only to the human-faced scorpion, but they were easy to deal with. Specters were the most difficult of the 3, and also the most horrifying. Phantom Kings were few in number, and they were hiding in the deepest part of the ghost realm. It was hard to run into them, but specters were a common sight. Once there was a team of specters, at least half of the warriors here would be killed. Ho San collected all this information, and Lu Li had only heard about it. Now that he had a chance to fight, he would not shy away. He glanced around for a while and walked to the left. Many warriors were curious to see him. This commander had been here for some time. They had heard about him, but not met him. They sensed that Lu Li was a second tribulation divine immortal. Many were curious. Almost all the warriors here were at the third tribulation. Only dozens of them were at the peak of the second tribulation. But all of them had unique skills, and they were no weaker than warriors at the third tribulation. Lu Li was only a second tribulation warrior. It was already incredible that he could become a team leader. Now he was the commander, the nominal leader of all the warriors. How could they not be curious? Many warriors thought Lu Li was a playboy of the Su family, and they were waiting for him to make a fool of himself. Lu Li walked to the left step by step. He didn't release any energy, nor did he take out his weapon in a flashy way to charge forward. He was like an old farmer taking a stroll in the countryside, walking step by step and closing his eyes as he walked. Roar! A scorpion beast with a human face roared and rushed towards him. Before it got close, it spat out some black smoke. Then, poisonous stingers shot out from its tail, and its huge pincers swept towards Lu Li. Xiao! Lu Li moved aside. He didn't avoid the poisonous creatures, only the stingers. He moved in a strange arc, flew past the human-faced scorpion and punched at it. Boom! The human-faced scorpion beast directly exploded, and half of its body became a bloody mess. It was killed in a single strike. Apart from some bloodstains, Luli didn't suffer any other injuries. The toxic haze enveloped him, but could not inflict any injury on him. Luli had observed before. The toxic haze was not so horrifying. Average warriors could manage it. Luli's body was strong enough that the toxic haze could not enter his body. The poisonous stingers were horrifying, and the two pincers were powerful as well. But Luli's perception was too good when he used the trace of Tao. Before the human-faced scorpion got close, Luli could tell the trajectory of its attack and dodge in advance. Boom, boom, boom. Luli was not fast, but he kept moving. Every time, he could fly past a human-faced scorpion beast. After he passed by, the evil beast would be blasted into pieces. Hiss. Many warriors gasped in shock. Some of them touched their noses, feeling lucky that they didn't offend Luli. Many warriors here could kill the human-faced scorpion beasts, but none of them could do it as easily as Luli. What was more, Luli didn't use any weapons or any powerful skills. It was as if he was taking a stroll in the field and squashing mosquitoes. Brother Huang, look! The corners of Commander Chao's mouth twitched as he transmitted his voice to Commander Huang. Could it be that this Grand Commander hid his cultivation level? Is he a fourth tribulation warrior? No. Huang Tongling shook his head and replied, he is cultivating the supreme body. It is understandable that he has such strength. What surprises me is, his perception is amazing. You saw yourself. He was surrounded by 4 human-faced scorpion beasts, but he could dodge them easily. It seems like he can already predict the trajectory of these evil demons' attacks before they even make a move. Supreme body? Huang Tongling sneered and murmured. It has been so many years since Emperor Z passed away. Has there ever been another powerful warrior that has accomplished the supreme body? How many resources do you need to accomplish the supreme body? Even the super forces can't train such warriors, let alone cultivate them. Yes. Huang Tongling nodded and said, the path to the supreme body is difficult. I have a friend whose elder took this path as well. His family's resources were all used up by him, but his combat abilities were only comparable to a fourth tribulation warrior. In the end, his family was destroyed. But our commander doesn't seem to have any background. It is good that he can come this far on his own. Anyway, we must show him some respect. He is good. Commander Chao didn't comment on Huang Tongling's words. He sneered and said, good? If he can survive 10 moves from me, I will admit that he is good. So what if he only has strength? I can kill him with just one killer move. Huang Tongling didn't reply. Luli was too young, and his combat abilities were not that strong. Yet, he had become a commander. Commander Chao was young and impetuous. How could Huang Tongling be convinced? Let's go and see. Huang Tongling waved his hand and shouted, put in more effort and kill all the human-faced scorpion beasts nearby. We must go to the Go Sea and leave as soon as we pick up the herbs. None of us will be able to escape if we attract a large number of ghosts. Yes, hearing the words ghosts, many warriors' expressions changed. Many of them, who were lazy, began to attack desperately. The human-faced scorpion beasts nearby were killed quickly. Whoosh! Luli came back after he killed more than 100 human-faced scorpion beasts. He took out some water to wipe the blood off his body. He had a better understanding of the human-faced scorpion beasts after this fight. There was no need for him to keep fighting. He was the commander. It was enough for him to show some of his abilities to deter the beasts. He didn't have to break through enemy lines like the other warriors. Commander, you are so mighty. Commander Huang's attitude clearly improved as a smile appeared on his face. Commander Chao, on the other hand, put on a fake smile and cupped his fists. I didn't expect Commander to cultivate a supreme divine physique. This is incredible. When Commander's divine physique reaches grand completion, you will definitely become a heavenly emperor. Ha ha. Chapter 2195. What is that? In the middle of a desert, Lu pointed to the sky in the distance and said to Commander Huang in shock. In the distance, rays of dark red light were glaring, tearing apart the void and then healing it. The yellow light wandered around, and the void was torn apart again. The yellow light wandered around in the sky, collapsing and healing the void. It was a horrifying and ghastly sight. That is the metal stream of the void. Commander Huang explained patiently. That thing is horrifying, and it is common in the broken void. You cannot get close to it. Once you are attacked, even warriors at the peak of the fourth tribulation will die. What? Li's heart trembled. Out of instinct, he was frightened. Even warriors at the peak of the fourth tribulation could be killed. How horrifying was that? If he were to go closer, he would be blasted into smithereens in an instant. Along the way, the army cleared out the human-faced scorpion beasts. Li also saw ghost worms. Those were worms that could go invisible. They hid in the void and would come out all of a sudden. The worms were not large, but not small either. They were as thick as a thumb and had sharp fangs. Every time they came out, they would come in groups, and there would be over 10,000 of them. To deal with the ghost worms, the warriors had their own special methods. When the ghost worms came out, they would take out a kind of sleeping incense. The mist from the sleeping incense would envelop the warriors. It was not harmful to the warriors, but it would affect the ghost worms. In the fog, the speed of the ghost worm would be slightly slower, and it would also be confused and disoriented. Then, the warriors began their merciless killing. But the ghost worms were strong. It would take over 2 hours to kill all the ghost worms every time they came out. Over 2,000 soldiers needed more than 2 hours to kill over 10,000 ghost bugs. That was under the circumstance that the sleeping incense was used. Each strand of sleeping incense would cost thousands of divine stones. Li had used more than a dozen strands, which cost him more than 10,000 divine stones. There were many ghost worms here. Every time they came in, they would have to use up a lot of sleeping incense, which was equivalent to burning divine stones. If it were not for the fact that there were so many elixirs in the ghost universe, the Palace of Hell wouldn't have spent so many divine stones. The output must be proportional to the output. Specters hadn't appeared yet. Li was curious, but he could not go looking for specters on his own. They found some herbs along the way, many of which Li had never seen before. Some of the herbs were not ripe, so the warriors did not collect them. The demons here rarely touched the divine medicine, so it was very safe to leave the divine medicine here. They could come back and collect it when it matured. These elixirs were of high grades, much higher than the ones Li got from the Palace of Immortals. Li could tell by the strong fragrance that these elixirs were of the highest level. Why is it that the spiritual energy is so thin, yet this place is able to nurture so many rare and precious divine medicines? Li murmured with curiosity. Usually, elixirs could only grow in rich xianqi in heaven and earth. This place was strange. This is the Void Shatterland. Hearing Li's words, Commander Huang explained with a smile. Everything is possible in the broken void. The xianqi in heaven and earth here is thin, but the soil here contains powerful energy. The soil here is very special, and we are unable to breed spirit herbs when we bring it out. Thank you for clearing my doubts, Commander Huang. Li cupped his fists. Even though he was the chief commander, he didn't see himself as a leader. Since this Commander Huang had shown him kindness, Li knew how to behave himself. Lord, you're welcome. Commander Huang smiled. He took out a map, walked to Li, and said, Chief Commander, this is where we are going. There is a batch of elixirs that have matured in the Ghost Sea. Let's go and collect them. Oh, I see. Li looked at the map. It was not too far away. At their current speed, they could arrive in a day at most. A day or so, Li looked around, feeling bitter. They had only been on the road for half a day, but at least 300 had died, and many were injured. They had only run into human-faced scorpion beasts and ghost worms. Up until now, they hadn't run into a single specter. According to Commander Huang, specters were horrifying. If they ran into a group of specters, many of them would die. Another 2 hours later, a warrior yelled in alarm. Specters, there are specters. Everyone, sit down and guard your minds. Commander Huang and Commander Chao were taken aback. Commander Huang shouted and rushed forward. All the warriors sat down and guarded their minds. Apart from the two commanders, nobody was alarmed or attacked. Luli stood where he was. He didn't sit down or do anything. Instead, he activated the trace of Tao and used psychic power to check the surroundings. Soon, he found the specters. From a distance came a gust of black wind. In the black wind, there were some looming monsters. Different from ghost worms, these specters were souls. In other words, they didn't have physical bodies. Nether Valley, Netherworld, Nether Sea, and Nether Specters. Luli murmured. Many warriors who found this place must have been killed by these specters. That was why it was named the Ghost World. These monsters were horrifying. Could they devour the souls of warriors? Hosan's information said that specters were horrifying, but there was not much information. Therefore, Luli didn't know much about specters. His eyes glowed when he saw Commander Huang and Commander Chao rushing over with secret treasures in their hands. Commander Huang held a yellow longsword in his hand. The longsword was covered in dense divine inscriptions. He activated the sword and it glowed. Surges of killing intent came out from the sword. Even Lu Li could feel it. Commander Chao took out several yellow talismans. The talismans also had countless divine patterns on them. He activated the divine talismans, and the talismans burned with raging flames that danced in the air. Impressive! Lu Li saw the two commanders dashing into the black wind. One of them waved his sword, and the other used the divine talismans to attack the specters hiding in the black wind. Well, there are specters sneaking up. Lu Li noticed a specter sneaking out from underground and entering a warrior's body. What happened next shocked Lu Li. The warrior opened his eyes, but they were blood red. Roar, the warrior bellowed like a beast. He took out his weapon and swung it to the side. 3 warriors were smashed away, and one of them died. Controlling a warrior's soul? Lu Li finally understood why the ghosts were so horrifying. Once the ghosts entered a warrior's body, they would be destroyed. Once a specter entered a warrior's body, a warrior with a weak soul could take control of the warrior in an instant and then kill his teammates. Think about it. If half of the soldiers or 2 commanders were controlled by the specters, then the entire army might be wiped out. Kill him. Commander Huang noticed what was going on. He shouted. Warriors nearby moved and attacked that warrior without any hesitation. That warrior was killed soon. But a gust of black wind came out from his body and entered another warrior's body. Soon, that warrior's eyes turned red. Luckily, there are not many specters. Chapter 2196. Ghosts were strange creatures. They could not destroy a warrior's body or soul. They could only control a warrior's soul. That being said, the warrior's soul was not destroyed. It was only temporarily controlled. As long as the ghost left the warrior's body, the warrior would go back to normal and would not suffer any harm. Of course, ghosts could control warriors to commit suicide, for example, by running into dangerous places. Ghosts could die easily in that way. But ghosts were strange. Once, they controlled some warriors to kill the rest. In the end, they controlled them to kill each other until only one was left, and that one survived. This time, there weren't many specters. The 2 commanders both had secret treasures, and these secret treasures seemed to be specialized in dealing with specters. The rainbow light and evil aura on the sword were very damaging to the ghosts. Commander Huang's divine talismans could also harm the ghosts. Under the attacks of the 2 of them, the ghosts were either injured or killed. However, there was a specter monster that rushed into the midst of the martial artists. There were already more than a dozen martial artists who were killed. The 2 commanders on the other side had no way of escaping. The rest of the martial artists seemed to have no way of dealing with the specter monsters. They could only wait for the specter monsters to enter someone's body, and the other martial artists would immediately kill that person. The spirit monster was too fast. Even if the nearby cultivators wanted to escape, they would not be able to. They could only move around and hide, hoping that the spirit monster would not find them, hoping that the two commanders would quickly finish off the other spirit monsters and come over to kill this one. Boom! Another warrior was killed. When the specter dashed into another warrior, the others panicked. One of them turned to Lu Li and said, "Chief Commander, you are so powerful. Please help us kill this specter." As soon as the warrior shouted, the other warriors' eyes glowed. Lu Li was the commander-in-chief, which was a higher rank than a commander. Just now, the commander could kill the man-faced scorpion easily. Maybe he had a way to kill the ghosts. Lu Li touched his nose. He was hesitating. Ghosts could attack souls. His soul was not strong, but he had the dragon soul. The dragon soul was a high-level enchanted soul. Ever since Lu Li had the protection of the dragon soul, his soul had never been harmed. The thing was, the ghosts were so powerful that many warriors of the Third Tribulation could be controlled in an instant. If Lu Li could not stand it, he would be doomed. Great Commander, save us. Great Commander's divine skills are unparalleled. He will definitely be able to easily kill the ghosts and protect us. Great Commander, quickly take action. Many people shouted. Many people jeered. They were not convinced by Lu Li as their commander. How could they be happy when Lu Li was just watching on the side? I'll give it a try. As the great commander of Nether Ghost Valley, he would eventually have to face these wraiths. Right now, it was just a specter. If he couldn't handle it, how could he survive in the future? Xiao, his body floated down and instantly rushed to the side of the martial artist who was controlled by the ghost monster. He blasted the martial artist to death with a punch and then calmly stood in place. Buzz, the specter floated out from the corpse. Without any hesitation, it rushed to Lu Li and entered his body. Lu Li closed his eyes to sense the situation in his soul. He felt a surge of powerful and strange energy rushing into his soul. The strange energy made him feel like a raging wave that wanted to devour his soul in an instant. Dragon Soul, you must hang in there. Lu Li prayed to himself. He had no other means of protection against soul attacks except for the Dragon Soul. At this moment, his soul glowed in a silver light, lighting up the entire space in his soul. The dragon mark emerged in his soul. The dragon's soul wandered around and began to fend off the attacks from the specter. Okay, Lu Li sensed. Even though the specter had rushed into his soul, the dragon's soul had stopped it and started to devour the specter. The specter and the dragon soul were fighting in Lu Li's soul. Soon, the outcome was determined. The dragon soul had the upper hand on the specter and was devouring the water specter. That ghost wanted to escape, but it was suppressed by the dragon soul and couldn't escape. Many warriors were surprised. Usually, when a warrior was invaded by a specter, he would be controlled immediately. His eyes would open, turn red, and start to attack other warriors nearby. It had been the time for 5 breaths, but Lu Li didn't open his eyes. There was no violent chi and energy coming from him. Clearly, he wasn't controlled by the specter. Buzzing, after the time for another 5 breaths, Lu Li opened his eyes. The warriors nearby stepped back in fear. This commander was powerful. Many would die if they were controlled by the specter. All the warriors were taken aback. Lu Li's eyes were clear. There was no red or violent chi in his eyes. It was as if nothing had happened. What? Commander Huang and Chief Commander Chao exchanged a glance, both of them shocked. The two of them had only been able to block these ghosts because they had artifacts protecting them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to block them with just their souls alone. Commander? A warrior shouted. He seemed to have some doubts. Some others looked at Lu Li with alarm. Lu Li smiled and said, "It's okay now. Don't worry." Whoosh. Lu Li dashed toward the 2 commanders where there were still specters to be killed. Lu Li was not going to help, but for himself. He had noticed that the dragon soul was excited after devouring the specter, and it was wandering around in his soul. Clearly, devouring specters was beneficial to the dragon soul. Since the dragon soul liked to devour specters, Lu Li would let it do it more often. As soon as Lu Li dashed over, a specter rushed over and entered Lu Li's body. Lu Li closed his eyes again. After a while, He was relieved to see that the dragon's soul could suppress the specter easily. After the time for 5 or 6 breaths, Luli opened his eyes. He was calm. He stared at 2 specters on the side and dashed over. The 2 specters were running away from Commander Chow's yellow talismans. Seeing that Luli was coming, they snuck into Lu Li's body at once. The 2 specters entered Lu Li's body at the same time. What? Commander Chow and Commander Huang were taken aback. How could Lu Li survive the attacks from 2 specters? If he was controlled, they would have to work hard to kill Lu Li. Well, Lu Li sensed and was relieved. There was no difference between 1 and 2 specters. The dragon's soul could suppress them and devour them at will. Lu Li noticed that after the dragon's soul devoured the specters, it was getting stronger. The pressure from the dragon's soul suppressed the specters as soon as they went in. They didn't have much strength to fight back and were devoured easily. Step back and protect everyone. I will take care of this. Lu Li opened his eyes and waved his hand. His eyes were calm. To him, the horrifying specters were no different from lambs. Commander, you are so mighty. Commander Huang cupped his fists and stepped back. Commander Chow bowed as well. He didn't know how Lu Li dealt with the specters, but the fact that Lu Li could kill several specters easily was proof of his ability. There were not many specters left, only 11. As soon as the 2 commanders stepped back, they all swarmed toward Lu Li and entered his body. Chapter 2197. 11 Specters. This was a huge number. If the 2 commanders didn't have any treasures on them, they wouldn't even be able to handle 2 or 3 specters with their own strength, let alone 11 specters. More than a dozen specters entered Lu Li's body. Lu Li was shrouded in a black fog. It was horrifying that he seemed to be possessed by demons and ghosts. Everyone was holding their breaths, nervous. Lu Li, on the other hand, was calm. He could sense that the dragon soul was getting stronger and stronger after it devoured the specters. As soon as the specters entered his soul, they were suppressed. Therefore, there was no difference between 1 specter and 100 specters. After the specters entered his soul, Lu Li calmed down. He did nothing, and he couldn't do anything. He just waited quietly for the dragon's soul to devour all the specters. In the time for 30 breaths, Lu Li opened his eyes. His eyes were still as calm as water, without the slightest ripple. It was as if nothing had happened just now, which surprised the group of people. Impressive. No matter how Lu Li killed so many specters, the fact that he could kill them was a proof of his ability. They had to be convinced. This commander became unfathomable in the eyes of all the soldiers. On the surface, he looked like he was at the second tribulation realm, but his body was extremely powerful. At that moment, his soul was ridiculously powerful. Not only could he withstand the ghosts, but he could also easily kill them. Valley of Ghosts, World of Ghosts, Sea of Ghosts. The fact that they were all named after specters was enough to explain many things. At the very least, it was widely acknowledged that specters were powerful. Phantoms were very difficult to kill, so the artifacts the 2 great commanders were holding were specially refined by the Underworld Palace to deal with phantoms. Just now, the 2 commanders did kill some specters, but it was not as easy as Lu Li. Lu Li just rushed over and let the specters enter his body. Then, the specters mysteriously disappeared one by one. Nobody knew how Lu Li killed the specters. That being said, killing was killing. This was strength. Okay, pack up and let's move on. Lu Li walked over and said calmly. He sounded casual as if nothing had happened. The 2 commanders looked at each other, but said nothing. They ordered the warriors to pack up the corpses and move on. Along the way, Lu Li felt many warriors would look at him from time to time. They were looking at him with a mixture of strangeness and admiration. Lu Li acted as if he didn't see anything. He had always been calm and would not be affected by honor or disgrace. Along the way, they encountered more human-faced scorpion beasts, and there were quite a few of them. Of course, Lu Li didn't want to take any actions. He asked the warriors to clear the way. The 2 team leaders stayed behind to give instructions. When a human-faced scorpion-bodied beasts were almost wiped out, Commander Huang and Commander Chao walked over with smiles on their faces. Commander Chao's attitude became much more respectful. Although he didn't know if he was convinced or not, he was convinced on the surface. "Greetings, Commander." Commander Huang walked over with a smile and cupped his fists. The great commander is truly amazing, actually able to easily kill these specters without the help of an artifact. If this matter were to be spread back to Nethersoul Valley, it would definitely cause a great sensation. I'm sure the elders will praise you greatly. Luli said calmly, "This is nothing. Haven't you two killed many ghosts as well?" "That is different." Chao Tong took out the talisman and said, "My talisman was made by a master in our mansion. It is specially used to kill ghosts. Commander Huang's weapon is the same. Without these two weapons, it would be hard for us to kill the ghosts." Luli didn't know about this. He asked after a moment of hesitation, "What about the other team leaders? Are they all like this?" "Not really." Commander Huang shook his head and said, "There are 3 team leaders with strong souls. They can kill the ghosts with their soul skills. Some team leaders can stand the ghosts and kill them as well. The ghosts are using soul attacks. As long as the soul can stand it, we can find a way to kill them. If the soul cannot, it will be a miserable death." Suddenly, Commander Chao was filled with admiration. He looked at Lu Li and said, "Commander, you are a powerful warrior in soul, right? You're cultivating an immortal body, and you are cultivating your soul as well." This subordinate is convinced this time. Lu Li threw Commander Chao a glance and sneered inwardly. Commander Chao said he was convinced, but on the inside, he was not. Clearly, he was trying to get information out of Lu Li. He wanted to see what Lu Li had in his hand. "I'm not exactly a powerful warrior in soul, but I do have some knowledge about souls. It just so happens that I have a way to deal with ghosts." Lu Li didn't say anything. Not exactly. However, wasn't there a method? Lu Li must have his ways to kill ghosts. What was the difference between saying it or not saying it? Commander Chao revealed an awkward expression. He thought for a moment and said, "Great Commander, how did you kill the specter monsters? Can you tell me about it and broaden my horizons?" "Commander Chao." Commander Huang glared at him with some dissatisfaction. Commander Chao was a little too much. Everyone had their own secrets and unique skills. Lu Li couldn't tell Commander Chao everything. Should he pass on his skills to him? Lu Li smiled, but he didn't mind. He said with a smile, "You want to know?" Commander Chao nodded like a chick pecking on grains. Lu Li said with a straight face, "But I don't want to tell you." "You." Commander Chao's expressions changed. He was like an irritated lion. He could not hide the killing intent in his eyes, as if he could kill someone at any time. Lu Li didn't mind. He wouldn't be afraid, even if Commander Chao wanted to do something. He was only at the peak of the 3rd tribulation. If he wanted to fight, Lu Li could crush him easily. Lu Li didn't want to be in charge or meddle, but that didn't mean he was afraid. This Commander Chao had always found him an eyesore. Previously, he even mocked and ridiculed Lu Li. Now, he was trying to get information out of Lu Li. Did he really think Lu Li had no temper? "Let's go," Lu Li said calmly. Commander Huang winked at Commander Chao, who made up his mind to suppress the killing intent in him. There were so many warriors here, and Lu Li was their nominal leader. It would be troublesome if they started a fight. What was more, Lu Li was unpredictable. Commander Chao couldn't see through Lu Li. If Commander Chao were to make a move recklessly and Lu Li had some powerful moves, Commander Chao would die without knowing why. The army marched on. It was quiet for the next half a day. They only ran into some specters. Many specters, insects, human faces, and scorpion bodies were encountered, but they couldn't inflict much harm on the army. Lu Li could suppress specters easily, which gave the army a sense of security. Relatively speaking, the most horrifying thing in the ghost realm was specters. There were less than 10 specters, and they were suppressed several years ago. They wouldn't come out anytime soon. Therefore, as long as the specters could be suppressed, the army would be safe. Lu Li could kill 11 specters by himself. That meant that he could handle hundreds of specters by himself. Is that the ghost sea? Chapter 2198. It was a black sea so dark that it was frightening. It was so dark that not even psychic power could penetrate it. If that were all, Luli would not be shocked. What really shocked him was the situation in the sea. Above the sea, there were currents of primordial void, which caused the space above the sea to tear and heal. At the same time, the seawater down below became violent. If it was ordinary seawater, it would only set off raging waves. However, the seawater here had turned into black dragons that swept upwards. They swam, danced, and rolled in the shattered space. Therefore, the scene in the distance was shocking. The void was torn apart, the primordial void was dancing, and the water dragons formed by the water of the Black Sea whizzed up and swam in the air. The sound of the water was endless. Heaven and earth trembled. Surges of destructive energy spread out, suffocating people. Why did the seawater condense into a water dragon and fly up? Luli could not figure it out and asked Commander Huang. Commander Huang explained patiently. This is a strange phenomenon at the Ghost Sea. The seawater here is different from the seawater in other places. There is a rare metal in the seawater here. The metal will be attracted by the primordial void, which is why this strange phenomenon is happening. I see. Luli understood now. Commander Huang continued after some thoughts. There is a strange creature in the seawater. It is a kind of bug. The bugs are poisonous, but they will not attack first. However, they would not take the initiative to attack. They would only attack martial artists after they entered the sea. When we go down to collect herbs, we will be attacked by the bugs. Also, Commander Huang added, it is said that there is a phantom king at the bottom of the sea, but we don't usually go down there. The sea here is very deep. Average people don't dare to go down there. Not even the patriarchs have been down there. Only our master went down once, and he was injured. He didn't say anything but told us not to go down there. Okay, Luli understood now. The master of the Palace of Hell must be a powerful warrior, even though he did not say it explicitly. If he was injured in the sea, then there must be a phantom king down there. 5 teams go down. The others stay alert. With a wave of Commander Huang's hand, the 5 teams of people changed into a strange armor that covered their entire bodies. The group of people split up and headed down the sea in groups of 5. Luli sat on the side with his legs crossed to cultivate. There were so many people on guard, and there were 2 commanders here. Someone would inform him if anything happened. I wonder if the dragon soul will transfer some energy to me after devouring the specters? Luli thought of a possibility. Back in the days, there was a horrifying wind in the Valley of Ghosts. The dragon soul could help him transform the energy in that wind to strengthen both his body and soul. The energy of the specters was so strong that it was impossible for the dragon soul to absorb them all. After all, dragon souls had never evolved. The rank of enchanted souls didn't matter. Luli had never heard of any enchanted souls evolving. Therefore, after the dragon soul absorbed a certain amount of energy, the excess energy would probably be converted to him. If he could improve his soul or physical body, that would be a very wonderful thing. Looking for some ghosts, Luli was tempted. He wasn't afraid of ghosts. As long as he didn't run into the Ghost King, he would be safe. Ghost worms and human-faced scorpion beasts couldn't hurt him. After a while, Luli asked Commander Huang, Commander Huang, how long will it take to collect the herbs? 4 or 5 days. Commander Huang said, some of the herbs are farther away, and there are some strange creatures at the bottom of the sea, so it is a bit tricky. I don't want to make too much noise in case I alarm the Ghost King, so I need some time. Oh, I see. 4 or 5 days was a long time. Luli said without hesitation, I will take a look around here. If there are a large number of ghosts, I will kill them or lure them away. Take a look? Commander Huang raised his eyebrows. He said, sure, but Commander Huang used his psychic power to stop Luli. It wouldn't be good if someone else heard it. He reminded Luli, Lord, don't pick the herbs for yourself. Some of them are marked. Once they are lost, they will be investigated thoroughly. If someone is found to be hiding the herbs, they will be executed no matter who they are. Oh, Luli didn't think about stealing the herbs. He was surprised that the Palace of Hell wasn't afraid of the dark herbs. He didn't know that all the herbs were marked. It seemed that there was a mysterious team in the Valley of Ghosts to monitor the entire valley. Perhaps there might be people from that mysterious army among them. Luli nodded and flew to the distance. Commander Chow walked over. Looking at Luli's back, he snorted and said, "This guy wants to steal the herbs?" "I don't think so." Commander Huang shook his head and said, "I just told him about the rules. He didn't show much emotion. I don't think he is interested. He just wants to wander around. I hope he runs into the Ghost King." Commander Chow said with hatred. Luli humiliated him just now, which made him hate Luli. That being said, he didn't dare to do anything to Luli. He couldn't see through Luli. "Don't jinx it." Commander Huang glared at him and said, "He is just wandering around. If he runs into the Ghost King, do you think we can survive?" "That's true." Commander Chow slapped his head. His eyes flickered as he suddenly transmitted his voice. "Old Huang, why don't we secretly get rid of him? I have a feeling that he has something valuable on him. Given our strength, we can kill him easily. If you want to die, don't drag me down with you." Commander Huang glared fiercely at Commander Chow and said, "Since he was able to become the great commander out of nowhere and has such a mysterious combat strength, who knows if he has any background? Also, you said he has something valuable. If he has a fragment of a holy weapon or a divine weapon, do you think we could defeat him?" "Well, let's suck it up for now." Commander Chow took a deep breath, feeling upset. He looked where Luli went and snorted, "Don't give me a chance, or, Luli didn't know he was being hated. Even if he did, he wouldn't care. Luli began to wander around on his own. He didn't dare to go too far. He was fast. Soon, he ran into many ghost worms and human-faced scorpion beasts. He didn't use his dragon wings to escape. Instead, he let out the worm of the void and the Goo King. The demons here were powerful. He wanted to see if the worm of the void and the Goo King could evolve. If the worm of the void could evolve again, he wouldn't be afraid of a group of warriors at the peak of the third tribulation. Alas, no. Half a day later, Luli stood on a hill and shook his head in disappointment. The worm of the void and the Goo King had eaten many human-faced scorpion beasts and ghost worms. However, apart from the worm of the void that split up, the others didn't evolve. Let's go. When the worm of the void devoured the last human-faced scorpion beast, Luli flew to the distance. This time, he used his dragon wings to avoid many human-faced scorpion beasts. He was as fast as the initial stage of the fourth tribulation. The average human-faced scorpion beasts couldn't catch up with him, and the ghost worms were not as fast. Good, very good. Chapter 2199. There were hundreds of specters, and the chilly wind was blowing. The valley was filled with specters. Luli would not rush into the valley recklessly. What if the dragon's soul could not handle it? At first, he lured dozens of specters out from the outside. Those specters were as fast as he was at his peak. Therefore, only some of them were alarmed. The others didn't follow him. Luli rushed out for thousands of miles. Dozens of specters swarmed into his body. Luli stopped. He was a bit nervous. After all, dozens of specters were horrifying. Luli sensed and relaxed. The dragon's soul had become stronger after devouring so many specters. The specters were contained as soon as they came in. As long as they were contained, there was nothing else to worry about. The next step was to consume the specters. The dragon's soul was consuming the specters faster and faster. In the time for one incense stick to burn, all the specters were consumed. Good. Luli had been checking his soul with psychic power. Soon, he noticed a problem. The dragon's soul could not absorb all the energy of the specters. There was some strange energy in his soul. This energy was different from the specters. It was uncontrolled and ownerless. The energy floated in his soul, and it was pure. Pure and powerful energy. This was what Luli needed. But it was different this time. Previously, the dragon soul would transform the energy to strengthen Luli's soul and body. This time it didn't. In other words, the energy came from the specters. The dragon soul destroyed the specters' consciousness, but didn't devour them and turn them into energy that Lu Li could absorb. But as long as there was pure energy, Lu Li could find a way to absorb it. As long as he could, his soul or body would be strengthened. Well, the energy is dissipating. Soon, Lu Li was surprised. The energy was dissipating. Even though it was not fast, Lu Li could clearly tell that the energy was dissipating. The energy was so powerful that Lu Li didn't want to waste it. He thought for a while, and then mobilized the trace of the Great Path to absorb the energy. Since he had learned some superficial knowledge of the trace of the Great Path, he was able to absorb more energy. Previously, the poison had been lurking in every inch of his flesh and blood, but he had easily absorbed it and converted it into energy in his meridians. Therefore, this time, he placed his hopes on the Great Path Mark. He hoped that the Great Path Mark could mobilize this energy and then circulate it into his meridians. Very quickly, he realized that something strange had happened. The Great Tao Trace could not gather that energy, not even a sliver. That energy was as still as a boulder dispersing on its own. F*CK. Lu Li was losing his patience. How strong would the energy be when not even the mark of Tao could mobilize it? However, there was nothing he could do now. He could only watch as the energy dissipated into the world. This was like an ordinary cultivator entering a treasure vault and finding dozens of divine weapons. But when he tried to grab the divine weapons, they flew away one by one. If they flew away in one go, it wouldn't be so tempting. Flying away in batches would make people go crazy. Calm down, calm down. Lu Li forced himself to calm down. It would take some time before the energy dissipated. What was more, there were many specters in the valley. It wouldn't matter even if all the energy dissipated. What was more important was that he had to find a way to refine the energy. Lu Li began to think of a way. He used various skills. First, he used soul skills, try to convert the energy into soul energy. Then, he thought of all kinds of methods, but after tossing and turning for an hour, he came up with nothing. The energy was strange. He could not mobilize it, convert it, or absorb it. After an hour, more than half of the energy had dissipated. Still, Lu Li could not figure out a way. He had an idea. He said to Blood Fairy, "Blood Fairy, go and absorb the energy in my soul." If Blood Fairy could absorb the energy and be of great help to her, then Lu Li would continue to kill specters. After all, Blood Fairy's improved abilities would be of great help to Lu Li as well. Bloodvine reached into Lu Li's soul. A tentacle reached into the energy. A moment later, Blood Fairy retracted her tentacle. She said, "The energy is strange. It seems to be pure and ownerless, but there is something strange about it. I cannot absorb it." Lu Li was troubled. If Blood Fairy could not absorb the energy, then there was nothing he could do. He could only watch as the energy dissipated. Right. A moment later, Blood Fairy thought of something. She said, "I think the energy can be absorbed. The characteristics are similar." Who is it? Lu Li was confused. What would be the point if the energy was absorbed by someone unrelated to him? Was it going to work for someone else? "Master, do you remember Bead of Apparition?" Blood Fairy asked. "I think that ghost can absorb the energy." Bead of Apparition? Ghost? Lu Li was surprised. It had been a long time since he used the Bead of Apparition. The Bead of Apparition could deal with average warriors of the Third Tribulation, but not the peak of the Third Tribulation. Therefore, it had been a long time since Lu Li used the Bead of Apparition. He had almost forgotten about it in his interspatial ring. If it were not for Blood Fairy's reminder, he would have forgotten about the Bead of Apparition. He did not take out the Bead of Apparition at once. Instead, he asked, "Blood Fairy, if the ghost absorbs the energy and becomes stronger, can we still control it?" Once it was out of control, the ghost would turn into a demon and might devour its master. What was more, Lu Li was not the master of the ghost. Blood Fairy only controlled the Bead of Apparition after she refined the divine rune. Lu Li did not control the ghost. To have a powerful demon around him that could devour him at any time was terrifying. He would not sleep at night, fearing that the demon would come out and devour him. No, Blood Fairy said with certainty. That ghost has no consciousness. It is just a puppet. No matter how strong it is, as long as you can control the bead of apparition, you can control the ghost completely. That was the original intention of the person who made the bead of apparition. All right, let's try. Luli nodded and took out the bead of phantasm. A ghostly shadow flew out like a dark cloud. Blood Fairy reached into the bead of phantasm. Soon, the ghostly shadow snuck into Luli's soul. Okay, Blood Fairy was right. The attributes of the ghost were compatible with the energy. The ghost began to absorb the energy from Luli's soul. Luli could clearly feel that the ghost was growing stronger. Don't go wrong. Chapter 2200. All the energy in the spirit was absorbed. That ghost was clearly stronger, as Luli could tell from its chi and energy. If the demon was at the 5th level before, it could reach the 5th and a half after consuming the energy. This was an obvious improvement. Ghost had only consumed dozens of specters. What if it could devour hundreds or thousands of specters? When Ghost's abilities reached a certain level, it could kill warriors at the peak of the 3rd tribulation or even the 4th tribulation. Ghost was a soul attack. Luli had never had a powerful soul attack method. If Ghost could become stronger, then it would become one of Luli's powerful soul attacks. Go on. Luli asked Blood Fairy to check. Luli was relieved to find nothing wrong with Spectre. Luli dashed into the valley again and attracted dozens of specters. Same as before, Luli would kill the specters with the dragon's soul, leave behind pure energy, and send Ghost to absorb the energy. Ghost was growing stronger. Luli asked Blood Fairy to keep an eye on Ghost. If something went wrong, Luli would be in big trouble. Though Luli's soul was protected by the dragon's soul, Ghost had entered his soul. If something were to happen to his soul, Luli would be doomed eternally. In an hour, all the specters were consumed and absorbed by Ghost. Spirit Shadow's aura grew a little stronger, but it wasn't as terrifying as before. It was good news that his abilities could grow. Luli understood that the further he went, the more difficult it would be. Take his supreme body as an example. The further he went, the more difficult it would be and the more resources he would need. Go on. Luli repeated what he did before. This time, he attracted dozens of specters and gradually consumed them. After all, the Go-See would need a few more days. Luli still had time. Half a day later, Luli killed all the specters. The energy of the specters was at least twice as strong as before. If Ghost could kill an average warrior at the 3rd tribulation before, he should be able to fight against a warrior at the middle stage of the 3rd tribulation now. Hundreds of specters were killed by Luli alone. Many patriarchs will be shocked if this news was spread out. After all, it was very slow for an ordinary commander to kill the specters. If hundreds of specters came, even 3 commanders would not be able to hold on. They would all die. Keep looking for ghosts. Luli floated down and soon disappeared into the mountains. Because Luli was searching for ghosts nearby, and he had lured away many human-faced scorpion beasts and ghost worms, the Go-See was quite peaceful. The 2 commanders were very surprised, but they didn't think too much about it. They just assumed that there weren't too many demons nearby. The soldiers were very successful in gathering the divine medicine. If they continued at this pace, they would be able to return in 4 days at most. Soldiers returned one after another, bringing with them many divine medicines. These divine medicines were indeed supervised by a professional army, and all of the divine medicines would be marked when they were born. This army was under the command of the Underworld Palace's Palace Lord. They didn't listen to any of the elders' orders, so there was no possibility of them colluding with the Black Divine Medicine. The army had the right to supervise, but they did not have the right to harvest. This side had the full power to harvest, but all of them were being supervised. Both sides kept each other in check. This way, the Hell Palace could be completely at ease. Time flew by. Soon, for days had passed. More than half of the soldiers that went to the sea had come back. Only 2 teams with more than 30 people were left. As long as these 30 people came back, they could go back. During this time, There were no human-faced scorpion beasts, ghost worms, or ghosts attacking them, which made the two commanders happy. This time, only a few dozen people died. Their luck was heaven-defying. Whoosh! Just as the two commanders were about to go back, a man suddenly flew up from the sea. He was covered in blood. He shouted in terror, "Run, everyone! The ghost sea is going wild." The two commanders looked at each other, but didn't hesitate for long. Commander Huang shouted at once, "Everyone, get into formation and retreat." Boom, boom, boom. As soon as they left, the sea began to tumble. Following that, many black shadows flew out. There were also ghosts and many human-faced scorpion beasts. They roared and charged at them. Oh no! The two commanders looked at each other. Their hearts sank. In the sea, there was a kind of demon called the she-demon beast, which was violent and horrifying. But this kind of demon beast usually stayed in the deep sea and rarely came out. At the moment, there were hundreds of she-demon beasts, at least thousands of human-faced scorpion beasts, and swarms of ghost worms. But that was not the point. The point was the ghosts. There was a dark cloud in the sea. All of them were ghosts, and there were at least 400 to 500 of them. The human-faced scorpion beasts, ghost worms, and she-demon beasts were not enough to wipe out the army. But hundreds of ghosts were enough to make them die without a burial place. Where's the commander? Why isn't he back yet? The two commanders took out their treasures, and their eyes were glowing red. If Luli were here, they might have a chance of survival. Otherwise, they would all die. Right, where's the commander? Where's the commander? Commander, come and save us. Commander, come out. Many warriors shouted. A few days ago, everyone thought Luli was a good-for-nothing, a playboy who relied on his background to get to the commander's position. Now, everyone's views had changed. To them, Luli had become their pillar, their backbone, the one who could save their lives. Get into formation and fight against the ghost worms, human-faced scorpion beasts, ghost worms, and she-demon beasts. Leave the ghosts to us. Hang in there. The commander will be back soon. Commander Huang roared and flew up with Commander Chao, taking the initiative to rush towards the ghosts. Right now, it was impossible to escape. They could only grit their teeth and fight for a chance of survival. Commander Chao hated Lu Li, but now, he was looking forward to Lu Li's appearance. If Lu Li didn't come out, everyone would die. Roar, roar, a sky full of insects flew over. Countless human-faced scorpion beasts and she-magic beasts rushed up and surrounded the army. Soon, there were casualties. If it weren't for the fact that the two commanders were calm and the army was not in chaos, many of them would have died. The two commanders killed their way through and quickly rushed to the side of the specters. They had to block the specters. If the specters rushed to the army, they would really be wiped out. Brother Huang, I think we're going to die here today. A dark cloud floated over, and the two commanders were surrounded by 400 to 500 specters. Although the two of them were using artifacts to protect themselves, both of them had a feeling that they would die here today. None of them would be able to escape. More and more people were dying. Miserable cries rose and fell. The army was not in chaos, but they could not withstand such a powerful attack. In the time for several incense sticks to burn, hundreds had passed away. Whoosh! Chapter 22:01. Luli came back at the right time. It was not that he wanted to come back, but he was afraid that he could not find the exit. There would be more chances in the future. He was not in a hurry. When he came back, he was frightened by what he saw. The human-faced scorpion beasts and ghost worms nearby were attracted away by him. He had killed all the ghosts. Where did the monsters here come from? Luli knew he must take action no matter where the monsters came from. Otherwise, how could he go back to the Valley of Ghosts when all these people were dead? He didn't want to be trapped here for the rest of his life. Grand Commander is invincible. Grand Commander, come and save us. Commander, come and save us. Commander, help us. Countless people yelled out, as if they had seen their last straw of hope. The situation just now had left them in despair, but Luli's appearance had given them a ray of hope. Luli didn't rush into the army. Instead, he looked around. After a while, he had a plan. Dragon wings appeared on his back, and his body slid in an arc as he shot towards Commander Huang and Commander Chao. He shouted, "Commander Huang, go help the army. Leave these spirits to me." "Okay. Thank you, Commander." Commander Huang shouted in joy. Ghosts were the most horrifying. If Luli could stop the ghosts, they could work with the army to fight against all the demons and monsters. They were confident that they could stand against the army of demons. Even though there would be heavy casualties, at least some of them could survive. "Commander, hang in there." Commander Chao cupped his fists to Luli. If Luli could not stand it, they would still die. Therefore, the key to the outcome of this battle lay in Luli's hands. If there were only dozens of ghosts, they wouldn't be worried. But there were hundreds of them. Could Luli stand it? Neither Commander Chao nor Commander Huang was confident. Luli was. For him, it made no difference whether there were hundreds or thousands of ghosts. What he was considering now was whether he should reveal his strength or not. It was a little shocking for him to be able to fend off a few hundred ghosts by himself. He thought about it and charged into the Een Wind alone. Then, he brought the Een Wind with him and flew far away. Specters did not have high intellect. They would only blindly attack humans. If Luli died, they would attack the others. If Luli didn't die, they would keep attacking. Therefore, Luli could lure the ghosts away easily. As for whether Commander Huang and the others could stand against so many monsters, Luli didn't know. He couldn't help them either. If they didn't kill these spirits, they would die even more miserably. Luli had lured the phantoms away for thousands of miles. In such a short time, the dragon soul had killed dozens of phantoms. More were coming, wave after wave. Spectre was nourished. It was devouring Luli's soul to its heart's content and growing stronger. These were all great nourishment items. Every single one of these specters contained extremely powerful energy. Blood Fairy, why don't you control Ghost Shadow and try to devour it? Luli thought about it. It was uncomfortable to have Spectre in his soul all the time. If Spectre could devour ghosts on its own, then it would save him a lot of trouble. Whoosh, whoosh, a gust of black wind came out from Luli's head. The phantom shadow appeared in the air. It whizzed and hovered in the air, enveloping several ghosts. Sure, Luli was delighted to check with psychic power. Spectre was devouring the ghosts. Though not as fast as the dragon soul, Spectre could cover a large area. For ghosts were devoured in one go. Okay, since Spectre could devour ghosts as well, then there would be no more problems. Luli stayed in peace, waiting for the dragon soul and Spectre to finish off all the ghosts. When that happened, he could go over and lend a hand, and they would be out of danger. As Spectre devoured the ghosts, its momentum grew as well, and its speed was increasing. The dragon soul had killed many ghosts. However, it could not absorb the energy. Therefore, it had to store the energy in its soul, and it was still dissipating. Luli didn't worry about the dissipation of the energy. After all, there were so many ghosts nearby. Over the past 4 or 5 days, Luli had found more than 1,000 ghosts for Spectre to devour. Including the 400 to 500 here, Spectre's abilities would be greatly improved. At first, Spectre might only be able to devour the souls of warriors at the initial stage of the third tribulation. After it devoured all the ghosts here, warriors at the later stage of the third tribulation with weak souls wouldn't be able to survive. What delighted Luli the most? Spectre didn't have its own consciousness. It was just a soul, a puppet completely under the command of the person holding the ghost bead. If Spectre had its own consciousness, it would become an old devil, an old demon. By then, it would be so horrifying that Luli would not be able to suppress it. He would be nurturing a tiger that would invite disaster. An hour. In an hour, the dragon soul and Spectre had killed all the ghosts. Luli's soul was full of energy, but he didn't have time to let Spectre digest it. He let Spectre hide in his soul and dashed toward the army like a mad dragon. He must save the army. If he didn't go, all of them would die. The army was in a terrible state. Less than 800 of the 2,000 warriors were left, and all of them were wounded. But under the leadership of Commander Huang and Commander Chao, they managed to stop the monsters. At this moment, the situation started to change. The two commanders were very strong, and the two of them killed some of the stronger monsters and demons. They were fighting with their lives. If they didn't, their armies would be wiped out. How could they be commanders? I wonder how it is over there. Can he hold on? Commander Huang murmured. He had made it. It was only a matter of time before the remaining demons and monsters were killed. At most, 100 or 200 warriors would die, but there would be survivors. If Luli could not hold on, then it would be pointless no matter how hard they tried. Whoosh! From a distance came a piercing sound. A figure that caught everyone's attention flew over. He was wearing a cyan robe with long sleeves. There was no trace of blood on him. He looked calm. Compared to the surroundings, he looked more like an enlightened master. "Commander, you are so mighty." A sergeant shouted with tears in his eyes. Luli had lured so many ghosts away, and he came back in just an hour. Yet not one ghost came back. What did this mean? Either Luli had lured the ghosts away, or he had killed them all. Everyone believed it was the latter. Luli had killed many ghosts before, and it was as easy as blowing off dust. "Commander, you are so mighty." Commander Huang shouted as well. Many warriors followed suit. Their morale was at its peak. With a commander like this, what else was there to be afraid of? They could go back alive as long as they worked hard. "Charge!" Commander Chow yelled. He kept hacking with his huge saber. Seeing so many warriors looking at Lu Li with admiration, Commander Chow felt envious and jealous. He had been leading warriors for so many years, but none of them looked at him like this. It hurt him. Stop shouting. Save some energy to kill the demons. Luli came over like a breeze. He killed 2 human-faced scorpion beasts with his fists. Then, he moved around like a ghost and began to harvest the lives of the demons and monsters mercilessly. P.S. The update time has been late. Everyone is saying that I don't have a choice. I want to update earlier, but I'm not in a good state of mind. I can't sleep until 4 or 5 in the morning. I am mentally weak. Please be understanding. Chapter 2202. The battle came to an end in an hour. All the demons and beasts were killed. The casualties were tallied. Only about 700 of the 2,000 warriors survived. Apart from the 2 chiefs and a small number of warriors, the rest were wounded. Luli was not hurt, but he was covered in blood, all of which belonged to the beasts. After the last demon was killed, Luli went to a nearby place and took a bath with some clean water. When he came back, the battlefield was cleaned up and the wounded were taken care of. If they were not badly wounded, some healing pellets would be enough. If they were badly wounded, they would be put into the interspatial artifact. If they were badly wounded and could no longer fight, it would be pointless to stay outside. The main force began to turn back. Luli looked at the sparse army and couldn't help but sigh when he thought of the neat formation when he came in. Luli had learned that the ghost realm was a dangerous place. Every time he came in, he would suffer great losses. The casualty rate was high. This time, Luli finally witnessed the cruelty of the ghost realm. He was glad that he had the dragon soul. Without it, he would have been killed as soon as he ran into the specters, let alone making a clean sweep. The thought of the dragon soul reminded Luli of Lu Ling. Every time the dragon soul saved his life, Luli felt he owed Lu Ling more. The dragon soul should have belonged to Lu Ling. The journey back was not a smooth one. That being said, it was nothing compared to the brutality just now. Luli barely did anything. The 2 chiefs had taken care of it. They ran into dozens of specters on the way, and Luli killed them all by himself. Spectre had absorbed all the energy in Luli's soul. Luli left the team secretly and put Spectre back into the ghost bead. Spectre was his secret weapon. He didn't want to expose it unless he had to. Luli returned to the Valley of Ghosts. It was still dim, but he felt he was back in the human world. Just now in the ghost realm, he felt he was in hell. He was not used to the atmosphere. Staying there for a long time would drive him crazy. Luli went back to the castle and never came out. He didn't want to care about what was going on outside, and he didn't want to be bullied by the patriarchs. Out of sight, out of mind. Boss. Half a day later, Hossein came to him and said with admiration, "Boss, you are so mighty. I was worried about entering the ghost world, but I didn't expect you to be so powerful. If not for you, the 2 battalions would have been annihilated." Luli knew that Hossein would come to him. He didn't show any surprise on his face. He just asked, "Have you heard any rumors?" Luli knew that his return this time would cause a big stir, so he stayed in the castle to avoid being seen as a monster. "There are so many rumors," Hossein said excitedly. "So many people died this time. The whole valley is in an uproar. Boss, your story has also spread. Countless people don't dare to believe it. If not for all the soldiers saying so, they definitely wouldn't believe it." And Luli nodded slightly. On the surface, he was only at the second tribulation realm. Nobody would believe him. In the past, many people suspected that he was the descendant of an underworld palace's upper echelon. Otherwise, how could he have sat on the position of great commander? Hossein continued excitedly. "These are all trivial matters. The most important thing is the reaction of the elders. Because so many people died this time, most of the patriarchs have come out. I heard that many patriarchs couldn't believe it when they heard about you. Not only did they listen to the reports from the 2 commanders, but they also asked a group of soldiers. I think they will summon you soon." "Summon me?" Luli frowned. He didn't want to meet the patriarchs. Who knew if Sui Wachin had told some patriarchs to kill him secretly? It was inevitable that something would go wrong when dealing with these patriarchs. Luli thought about it and said to Hossein, "Can you stand guard outside for me? If someone comes to find me, tell them that my soul is injured in the ghost world and I have to rest for half a year to recover." Hossein was about to cry, but he nodded and said, "Okay, I will stand guard for you for half a year. I don't have to go to the ghost world during this time. I will be safe here. Also, boss, next time I'm sent to the ghost world, you must go with me and help me. Otherwise, I will die a miserable death." "Sure." Luli nodded readily. He wanted to go as well. He wanted to find ghosts for Spectre to devour. The stronger Spectre was, the more helpful it would be to Luli. Luli went to his room to cultivate. For one thing, he wanted to cultivate Dragon Wrestle. For another, he wanted to keep a low profile. If he stood out too much, he would be beaten up. He could take advantage of the injury to improve his abilities. His Dragon Wrestle was about to be mastered. When he could use it, his physical strength would be 10 times stronger. He could even fight patriarchs. As he had expected, the next day, a patriarch sent someone over to ask Luli to go over. Hossein was guarding outside. He said seriously that Luli's soul was injured and he was resting. Luli ordered him to stay and convey his apologies. When the news was spread out, the patriarchs didn't summon Luli again. Luli's image was elevated. To save the warriors, he fought against hundreds of ghosts on his own. His soul was injured. More importantly, Luli didn't say anything. He walked with the team in silence. He didn't show any pain. He endured it all by himself. What kind of spirit was this? Shouldn't such a great commander be loved and respected by everyone? The warriors here were in a precarious situation. They could die at any time. They were a bunch of unruly people. If a patriarch was not nice to them, they might draw their sabers against him, let alone a commander. But if you treated them well, they would follow you wholeheartedly because they could survive. Luli didn't expect that he could gain such prestige by pretending to be injured. From now on, at least, the warriors wouldn't make things difficult for him. As for the other commanders and patriarchs, Luli didn't know what they were thinking. Commander Huang had acknowledged Luli. Commander Chao, on the other hand, was jealous and unhappy. Maybe it was because the first impression was the strongest, but he didn't have a good impression of Luli. Even though Luli had saved them, Commander Chao was still jealous when he learned that Luli's reputation had improved. He had been here for hundreds of years, and he had only become a commander. Many people were not convinced. How long had it been since Luli came? Commander Chao thought about it for a while. Then, he summoned a trusted man and said, "Go out of the valley and find out about the commander. Remember, do it in secret. If the commander has a powerful background, stop the investigation at once." The trusted man's expressions changed. He said bitterly, "Lord, if the commander does have a powerful background, I will die a miserable death if I go and investigate him. What are you afraid of?" Commander Chow said with a glint of coldness in his eyes. "Almost all the warriors here are exiled. Even if the commander has a powerful background, he was exiled because something happened to him. If he is really here to gain experience, why would the patriarchs send him to the ghost realm so easily? Will you go or not? If you don't, you will have to bear the consequences." "I will." Chapter 2203. Luli was in closed-door cultivation leisurely. The outside world quieted down after a few days of excitement. But people had changed their opinion of Luli. The warriors had begun to accept Luli as their commander. Time flew by. 4 months later, 2 more battalions entered the ghost realm. They were lucky this time. Only 500 warriors died when they came out. If it weren't for the riot at the Ghost Sea last time, the 2 battalions wouldn't have suffered so many casualties. Usually, there wouldn't be so many casualties unless there were some special circumstances. 10 days later, a troop arrived at the Valley of Ghosts. This was a reinforcement from the Hell Palace. Last time, they had suffered too many casualties. Along with this troop was a handsome young master. When this young master came in, 5 patriarchs came out to greet him in person. Many warriors were surprised that 5 patriarchs came out to greet him. Who was this young master? How could he have such a high status in the Hell Palace? Soon, a piece of news spread out. This young master was the descendant of a great patriarch of the Hell Palace. His name was Meng Li. There were 3 great patriarchs of the Hell Palace. They were the pillars of the Hell Palace. Meng Li was the descendant of one of them. All the past masters of the Hell Palace were powerful cultivators. That being said, a master alone could not support a force. The true pillars of the Underworld Palace were these 3 supreme elders. They were 3 extremely tyrannical existences. Naturally, the pillars of the Hell Palace had a distinguished status. Meng Li was the descendant of the great patriarch and the most powerful warrior of a young generation of the Meng family. Naturally, the warriors of the Hell Palace could not afford to be careless. Patriarchs here were patriarchs, but they were not favored in the Hell Palace, let alone their combat abilities. Patriarchs were similar in status to Hall Masters of the Hell Palace. How could the average patriarchs not come out to greet Meng Li? Several patriarchs didn't come out to greet him. 2 of them were in closed-door cultivation, and the other 3 were not afraid of anything. They had been suppressed for so long that they didn't care about anything anymore. Where is the chief commander here? Why don't I see him? I've heard of his deeds from the outside, and I'm serving under him this time. Hurry up and invite him out so I can pay my respects to him." After exchanging greetings in the main hall, Meng Li said something that made the smiles on the faces of many elders become meaningful. Meng Li was looking for trouble, and she was looking for Luli. The elders were already surprised. Even if Meng Li wanted to gain experience, he wouldn't choose to come here. When they received the transfer order, they were all baffled. "Why is he so miserable in your generation?" A trace of embarrassment and shame appeared on Commander Chow's face. He lowered his head deeply and paused for a moment before saying, "We are useless." Chow Yun is very ashamed. "I know a little about what happened back then." Meng Li raised his head and looked at Commander Chow indifferently. He said, "Don't think too much. After a while, I will transfer you out. If you can break through the 4th tribulation, I will guarantee you an elder position." "Thank you, young master." Commander Chow was overjoyed. He kowtowed heavily. Meng Li waved his hand and said, "Get up. Tell me about that 4th young master Lu." "Okay." Commander Chow stood up. There was a trace of coldness on his face. As a matter of fact, it was because of him that Meng Li could come here to be the 2nd commander. Commander Chow sent someone to find out everything about Lu Li. His grandpa used to follow Great Patriarch for a while, and he had some connections in the Hell Palace. It was easy for him to get some information. After inquiring clearly, Commander Chow immediately passed on the situation to Meng Li. He sent the information to him because he knew one thing. Meng Li had been pursuing Sui Weqin for many years. Sui Weqin was an immortal princess. Under normal circumstances, she would not marry out. She would most likely marry a young master from the Hell Palace. Meng Li stood a good chance. Of course, Meng Li had a lot of competition. There were 3 other young masters who were excellent. Sui Weqin was sometimes close to them, and sometimes far away. She had never made up her mind. As far as Commander Chao was concerned, Luli was a good opportunity. If Meng Li could make Luli suffer, or even kill him quietly, maybe Sui Weqin would be happy. Meng Li thought so as well. So he came. Meng Li believed that Sui Weqin could not do it herself. By sending Luli here, she wanted him to die. Meng Li would naturally seize such a good chance to perform. As for why he didn't send a message to Patriarch Yang to do it himself, he came in person. Wasn't this the show of sincerity? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.